This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Baconsale Presents. Tonight we are here to present to you horrific tales of espionage, mistaken identity, and murder from one of the most darkly witty filmmakers of our time, who has created over 50 feature-length pictures and whose career spanned across 6 decades. Join us on our journey into the mind of the Master of Suspense.
Who is it, Joel? Who is it?
We have to ask you to find out.
Oh, okay. I have to wait.
We're keeping people in suspense.
Hey, how's your mouth right now?
It's a little mushed.
You know what's funny is, like, as soon as I saw you like grab your face to like smush it, I knew what was going to happen.
Well, I've been doing that stupid voice like around the house, in the car, just over and over
for
again,
the show, or because you've been like so obsessed with this?
Good evening. Good evening. Like just over and over. My kids think I'm crazy.
Does he sound British?
How British does he sound?
Because he's been. Oh, we'll get there.
He sounds very British. He's very British.
Hey everyone, welcome to Bacon Cell.
I'm Joel.
I'm Kent.
And Jacob.
So we'd like to thank you, as always, for listening to our last show, which was our robot show with Ryan. So thanks for Ryan to come on the show. We had a great time.
Thank you, Ryan.
People seem to really enjoy it, and people like brought
Somehow.
Yeah.
Like we were doing the show.
I was actually kind of worried.
There were
it was
three-
like, okay, this has gotten a little geeky.
Oh,
like,
there were 3 levels of nerd that happened at one
so
point.
much.
It was a little, doubling down.
Yep.
But and then people enjoyed it though, and people even brought up robots that we didn't talk about, which was kind of funny. Like CeCe Cummings actually mentioned No Love for Johnny 5, and I went, ah. In fact, to make it right, CeCe Cummings, I am actually showing my children Short Circuit for pizza movie night. So,
Oh yeah,
this next pizza movie night, I'm going to show it to him.
Fisher Stevens' character is not offensive whatsoever.
Not at all. He's more offensive in number 2.
Yeah, that's true.
But
but thank you everyone for listening. We had such a good time, and we're probably not going to do a part 2 of that because we really ran the gamut with robots.
we did. We got so many robots in there. Also,
Indeed.
It's Halloween season. All October.
You guys aren't excited about this at all.
We've been
Oh,
waiting
gosh.
for all season for
I
this.
know.
And guys,
All
guess
of-
what? 5 weeks.
Yes,
5
5
weeks of
Mondays.
October. Yes.
So that's 5 episodes of Bacon Cell, presuming none of us die.
Take it easy.
I'm just saying I've watched a lot of movies in the last month that made me think about this.
Exactly. But we are so happy you guys could be here. We love October. We hope we don't lose any of you.
Well, because, and keep in mind, we're not just talking horror movies. We're going to be talking about a whole range of different topics.
Horror books.
And this is a good
horror
lead-in.
candy.
It's all Halloween themed, though, so enjoy it because it's going to be a fun ride.
We love it. So, and also we want to mention patreon.com/baconcell. Just last week, I drew a picture of Drew Cutler, who was one of our patrons, and it was so much fun. I drew him with Frankenstein. I'm drawing 2 more this weekend.
Yes, because everyone who signs up to become a patron of Bacon Cell, or
Yes.
those who upgrade their donation, also will get a hand-drawn picture from Kent in a Halloween theme.
Yeah. Also, we have a new patron on patreon.com,
Oh, that's right.
Spencer Myers.
Spencer Myers.
Now, we gave him a shout out a few months back, but it's a different Spencer. It's the original Spencer, I believe.
I think there's 3 Spencers.
There are
on
4,
there.
actually. There are literally 4
On
Spencers.
Patreon, though?
No, there are 2. No, there are 3.
There's 3, yeah.
Okay, we're spending too much time on Spencer's. But thank you, Spencer, very much. Also, go check out his podcast, which I was on. It's called The Spirit of 38.
Well, we had another one join not too long ago as well. I don't think they got a shout out.
Jordan Rexick.
That's it.
Thank you for being a patron. This is your shout out, and we appreciate you and all you do.
Jordan's kids decided he needs to be a scary zombie for the picture I'm drawing. So we'll see how that goes.
And for those of you who have upgraded in order to get this picture as well, thank you.
Also, we are giving away gifts, and they're very centric to this show.
Yes.
Finally, it makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get into that too. But just so you know, if you are a Patreon, if you're a patron of Patreon, there we go.
So
if you're a
confusing.
patron of Bacon Sale, you're automatically entered to win the Ultimate Masterpiece Collection.
The Masterpiece Collection.
Featuring some of Alfred Hitchcock's best works. And then also, if you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, you will get a chance to win the Psycho DVD on Blu-ray. Also, a Alfred Hitchcock classic.
Yes.
So there's a lot of chances to win. It's one of our, now, we enjoy doing these giveaways when we can. And so we wanted to do this for Halloween season because it's our favorite season.
Yes.
So,
Is it, guys? I hadn't noticed that. You really think so? It's
Funny.
your favorite ever? Yeah.
So I'm dying of suspense right now. Like, I have to know what we're talking about.
Before
The
we
cover
do
of
that-
the show and the title weren't enough.
But before we do that, I have something I got to bring up.
What?
Last October, we did a show about Supernatural.
No, I figured it out before you did it. Where are you at? How far did you get?
So here's the deal. Last time on Supernatural, I'd been watching Supernatural for like 3 years at that point, and I was on like season 2, episode 8. Not like I have it notes here. That was the episode I was on. And I made a deal with Jacob. I said, I originally said, if I get through season, I will get through season 2 before the next series of Halloween shows.
Yeah.
But then I made a fumble, and I said, stupidly, if I don't finish season 3 before next October 2018, if I don't finish season 3 of Supernatural by next October, I will get you all-you-can-eat tacos.
You owe me all-you-can-eat tacos?
Jacob, I'm on season 6, episode 7.
What? You have not shared this information with us.
I have been keeping this from you the entire time.
What a nerd.
Why would you do that?
Because
we can enjoy
I
it together.
didn't want you to know how far I was. But I'm in season 6, episode 7.
Season 6.
Lots of crazy stuff has happened.
We could have talked about Castiel.
I know, in
I want to
season
talk to you about a
5.
lot of
Yes.
things that happened.
How have you resisted this, and why?
Because I wanted to trick you into thinking I hadn't watched as many as I thought I
hadn't
did.
remembered.
You see this guy's face? He's so excited.
So Hilton always pays his debts, and my debt is paid. I watched well beyond what I was supposed to do.
Well beyond.
And now
So,
I'm done. So no more Supernatural for me.
Jake, this means you owe him all you can eat tacos.
I was wondering, like, does it go both ways? I
It
don't
does.
remember.
And since he did
it wasn't
double, you owe me tacos as well.
I don't know. This
It wasn't officially agreed, but I think
doesn't
that's
seem
fair.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. My debt is paid. October has come,
Well
and I've
done,
fulfilled my
sir.
end of the bargain.
Wow.
And,
Man, I want to ask you so many questions right now.
Hey, save it for another show. Or not, because we're not going back there.
Yeah.
Bacon bit.
If you haven't listened to that Supernatural show, go back to last year's and you'll hear Jacob fangirl all over the place. And Kent call Jensen Ackles handsome man and Bay. I
Well,
believe is what he called him.
I did. He's my bae.
Yeah. But what are we talking about today, Jacob?
Today, listener, you know, these guys are way ahead of me on pretty much every pop culture thing. And I have
Just
these,
say everything. It's
I
fine.
have almost everything. I had to hang on to a couple things. I don't know what they
we
are.
were singing just before the show started.
They were singing Sound of Music, and I didn't know the song, so that didn't work really well for me. But one of the things I did know really, really well was Alfred Hitchcock movies. I had gone back through during college, and I had watched so many, like literally
18.
no more than those were the ones that I
Joel
had seen.
knows he does his numbers.
So we went
18.
through and I marked 18 that I had seen it at 3 times.
Because we created a list
And
of
I
all the
didn't need
films that
to-
Alfred Hitchcock had directed.
Yes, and the ones that I felt like if I had seen them 3 or more times, then I felt like I didn't need to go rewatch them. And the other ones I didn't watch, I'd seen maybe once. And so, but I had seen many, and this had
18.
been no 3 times or more for the 18.
18,
Anyway,
exactly.
So,
So you would watch 18. Joel, how many had you seen?
I'd seen about 13.
Okay.
And I'd just seen, not like watched repeatedly, but I just, when I went through the list, I was like, okay, 13. And
More than-
we created this list back in April.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, you know, this is a way to go because Alfred Hitchcock has directed 53 films.
Unbelievable.
Well, okay, he's directed a little more than that, but some of those films have lost and some of them were made for TV. And yeah,
In fact, one of the 53 is lost forever.
2 of them.
Two of them. There's Mountain Eagle and
Mountain Eagle, and then the first one he did, which was number 13.
Oh, yes, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, those are both gone. No one can find them. They're just gone from history.
So the point being, these guys have now surpassed me in this one of these very few places where I held some sort of
Hold
pop
on.
culture
Let's go back.
claim.
By the way, I'd watched 10, so the fewest of you guys. I won the Oscar challenge. Joel had won every food challenge.
Yes, I
I'm
have.
trying to think
Did
of
he?
where you've actually surpassed us, Jake. I mean, I love you. I love you.
I had seen more
But-
Hitchcock until this show, which is
Okay,
what I'm saying.
Can I just bring it up now then?
Yeah.
So,
And you won the best picture by like
No,
4
literally
minutes.
by 4 minutes at work.
which is funny because once again, so we started this like we said. So we're talking about Alfred Hitchcock movies, all the movies he directed. We created a list of his 53 movies that he directed, feature-length films that he directed. We're not including short films or propaganda films or things like that.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, I'll take this at a casual pace. I got till October, no big deal. And then I figured it was like
Yeah.
mid-October we doing this show. And then Kent reminded me, no, this is the tipping point. This is our transition show
Yep.
from regular shows to Halloween shows. And I went, oh, no. And I suddenly looked and I realized how many movies I had left. And so I watched 33 Alfred Hitchcock movies in less than 21 days. I would come home for work and watch a half hour of Alfred Hitchcock movie and then go back to
Joel?
work and then finish it after that.
Joel,
That is so crazy.
I'm a single man. I don't know if anyone knew this.
Is this why you have the wild eyes, Joel?
Yeah.
I've neglected my wife. I've neglected my kids.
Joel, I did this. So I've taken the past month and a half and I have watched 42, maybe 41 movies.
Of Alfred Hitchcock.
Of Alfred Hitchcock. Straight Alfred Hitchcock. And then try to rewatch some of the better ones that I had seen previous.
Okay.
And I've been going crazy. I've been going full steam. And when I found out you were doing this, I'm like, I can get away with this because half the time I'm not putting anyone to bed. I can stay up as late as I want. Mm-hmm. But Joel, you have responsibilities in this world.
I do. And as soon as the kids went to bed, I was in front of the TV watching Alfred Hitchcock.
Wow.
And my wife was so supportive in this. Thank you, honey. But the funny thing is that Kent started to hair it, as in tortoise in the hair it.
Yes.
Because he was so far ahead of me that he was like, I got this, no big deal. And he didn't know how many I was plowing through.
I was actually quite worried.
I almost beat Kent. He beat me by one day. I got the next morning, I got up and I said, I've got 2 left today. I'm going to do it. And I said something to Kent and he said something, he alluded to the fact that he was done. And I went, have you finished? And he went, last night. And I was like, oh.
We were actually supposed to watch the final movie of mine together.
We were.
And I was like, I watched it the day before just so we couldn't tie.
We were going to watch a movie together and then it didn't work out. Kent
We
dumped
are
me.
dorks. This is so important to us. For some reason, we've wasted so many hours.
Yes. So we have watched well over 100 hours of film.
Yes.
For 1 hour of Baconsale.
Hey, we kill our bodies with bad food. We might as well enrich our brains with black and white movies.
Can I ask you a question too? Because watching the Best Picture winners, there were times when I just wanted to gouge my eyes out. Like I hated them so much.
Yeah, like Around the World in 80 Days. Sure.
No. I was thinking more along the lines of like,
Gentleman's Agreement.
Well, that was bad.
American Beauty.
Yeah, that was bad.
Right.
Yeah, Moonlight, also bad. But that wasn't for the competition. That was just I didn't like the movie. This one, I was like, these are actually pretty entertaining. Like a lot of these I enjoyed. There was only a few that I could say, wow, I never want to see that movie again.
I would, honestly, because of this challenge, I don't have a sour taste really towards any of these movies.
Yeah.
There are some that I was like, I don't get what's happening. There's only a speech bubble every 7 minutes.
Well, that's a silent movie, Ken.
It's a silent movie, but give me more speech bubbles.
Like, what is this?
What? They're not talking. What is happening?
I turned up my TV all the way up.
Now, also, lest you think that I pulled a Kent and watched these all like double speed while I was
He'll
crocheting.
never let that go. Crocheting?
After each, because I was worried they were going to blend together. So after each movie, I would have to stop, look up all the facts on IMDb and Wikipedia, do the research, and then write a review.
Wow,
and then I
good
could
job.
watch the next one because I had to differentiate them from one another.
I tried to go old, new, and by new I mean 1960.
Yeah, I
but
did that too.
old, new, but the old ones just mesh together so much.
There's a lot of them. In fact, you know what my favorite Hitchcock movie is?
I'm listening.
It's the one where the guy gets wrongfully accused of something, and then he encounters a girl that doesn't believe him at first, but then she believes him, and then they solve the mystery together.
And does he have a domineering mother?
There could be a dominating mother.
Okay.
Also, the movie's it's one where the movie ends really abruptly as soon as the climax happens, and you don't get anything more after, but that's film geek stuff.
Yeah.
So, yes, we watched everything from The Pleasure Garden in 1925 to Family Plot in 1976. Alfred Hitchcock passed away in 1980, and so that was, his last film.
Isn't that just crazy? That's over 50 years right there that this man was making films. Insane.
Crazy.
And I have to say, the guy knows his work. Like, I watch these movies and I'm like, he had a vision at the beginning and you get these little glimpses of him in the silent era.
See,
and then he goes full steam later on and you're like, that's what he was going for.
I feel like he had glimpses and he had maybe some creative effort in some early movies, but I think he was just making studio pictures. Some of them didn't feel like Hitchcock at all.
Oh, not at all.
Because okay, this is a Halloween show, but when you think Hitchcock, you're like, murder, suspense.
Oh, you know what I think? Poor family winning the lottery. That's what I think.
Right.
Which one was that?
Juno and the Paycock.
Oh,
yeah. So it's a bit strange. There are some comedies in here, which we'll discuss.
And some musicals?
Yeah.
Musical-ish.
You have to go to the old stuff. When did he get to start picking? Did you guys pick that up?
Well,
your research?
Kind of. Well, let's get into that.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Alfred Hitchcock. This is going to be an educational and entertaining episode of Baconsale. We hope you join us.
So like Joel said, he was born in 1899, August 13th, and he died in 1980, April 29th.
Mm-hmm. And he was actually got into the film industry as a title card designer. His family fell in hard times, and so he had to leave school and start designing title cards for movies.
Here's what I found so interesting about his childhood, just to take a little bit further back. So his parents were both really strict Catholics.
Yes.
And was he an only child?
No, I believe he had siblings.
Okay, but they treated him like in a really strange way. He was very isolated, right? Like he's overweight his entire life, and his parents treated him a lot different, it seemed like. And at one point, I think he was 5 years old, 5 or 6, and his dad wanted to punish him.
Oh, yeah.
For something like really small, really minute. And he gave his son a note to take to the police officers and say, put me in jail for 10 minutes for something
he
I did.
didn't know what the note said.
Right.
He brought it to the police station. He gave it to the officer. The officer read it and then put him in a cell and said, this is what we do to naughty boys, and shut him in a cell
For 10 minutes.
Yeah.
A child.
It scared Alfred Hitchcock so bad that he had a lifelong fear of policemen after that.
And
if
you can
notice,
see it in his movies.
Yeah, if you notice in his movies, policemen are usually suspicious characters.
Yes.
Who can't be trusted.
They're either bumbling or suspicious, and when they get killed in his movies, it's kind of graphic. No, seriously, like they're like, I mean, you don't see anything, but like, and they die slowly.
One of the things I wanted to bring up is that his cameos.
Right.
Because he made cameos in his 53 films, he made cameos in 39 of them. And all the ones, once he moved to Hollywood, once he came from England and moved to Hollywood, he was in all those because it became a thing.
Yes.
In fact, it became so distracting that he had to start putting himself within the first 30 minutes of the movie. Otherwise, people would be waiting for him to appear.
It was distracting.
My favorite cameo is when that guy's reading the newspaper, and it's when the woman hops the fence from the woods and then finds that it's modern day, and you see his face in the newspaper.
See, that's just it. So you're talking M. Night Shyamalan, who considers himself a modern day Hitchcock. And he puts himself, M. Night Shyamalan puts himself in his movies. The thing is, Alfred Hitchcock's cameos are never talking roles.
No.
He's in the background. And it started because...
Well, he's like walking onto a bus.
Yeah, it started in The Lodger was his first cameo, and it's because they needed an extra. They needed someone to sit there, and so he said, I'll do it. And I'll do it. Some Sean Connery all of a sudden. But he said, I'll do it. And so he just went over there and sat and did it, and then it became this kind of good luck charm where he started appearing in his roles. But it's also kind of clever how he does it.
Yes.
Because, like for example, there's a movie called Lifeboat, where it's a bunch of people trapped on a lifeboat, a limited cast in a limited setting, and they're like, how's he going to do a cameo in that? And he was actually on a picture on a newspaper that one of the characters is reading, and shows a before and after of a weight loss drug.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, well done, Hitchcock.
So Hitchcock got married in 1926, so right at the beginning of his film career. He married a writer. She was like a secretary writer for the films he was working on. Her name is Alma Reville. Mm-hmm. He married December 2nd.
You said Reville?
Yeah, Reville.
I said Revel.
Ooh,
I don't know what it is. But
I don't even know either.
Alma. We'll just call her Alma.
But he was married for
You
what?
should probably read into that, honestly.
But
he was married for over 50 years.
Oh, so his entire life at that point.
Yeah.
They never divorced?
They never divorced.
Wow.
The marriage ended when he passed away in 1980, and then she passed away 2 years after that. And she had some serious health problems, actually, during the later filmings, and so he wasn't as engaged with the filmmaking because he was worried about his wife.
I didn't know this, but she had a lot of creative input on a lot of his movies.
She was a writer.
If not writing.
Yeah, she did a lot of writing on these movies. And actually, Alfred Hitchcock, he's a director, but he only wrote 7 of the films he's directed, and most of them were the early ones, like The Ring, Champagne, Blackmail, The Skin Game Murder, Rich and Strange, Number 17. Those are the ones he actually wrote and directed, because primarily he enjoyed directing. That was his bread and butter. That's where he liked to be.
I think he liked to boss actors around.
He did not have a high opinion of actors.
No, they're basically, he said they were chattel.
Yes. Or
Chattel?
Chattel, as we call it here. But in fact, one of the actresses, Carol Lombard, I believe it was, one day he came on the set and she had a full-size pen set up with cows inside of it, and they all had the actors' names kind of draped over them on like little saddles. And it was just a joke as how he treated his actors. He got a kick out of it. He thought it was hilarious.
That's just him. So he's famous for many things. First of which being he did the first British talkie in 1929.
Yes, Blackmail.
That was Blackmail.
That was the first one that had... I mean, we had 1927, The Jazz Singer was the first one here in America.
Yes.
But it took Britain a little while later. And it's funny because the studio was like, how about we do the half of the movie with sound? And
right.
He's like... okay. And then he went and shot the whole thing in sound.
Yeah.
He actually reshot a bunch of scenes because he was like, no, we're just going to do this the right way.
Yeah, so he had a career there. He got pretty popular, and he came to America in 1939. Started making films from then on.
Yes, David O. Selznick is the one who brought him
producer.
over,
yes,
and had a contract with him for like 7 years, I think it was. But he's the one who's responsible for bringing Hitchcock to Hollywood. But he's also responsible for a lot of Hitchcock's frustrations with producers here.
Oh, absolutely.
Hollywood.
But it was almost immediately he did Rebecca, which won the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Yeah,
which is a great one.
His first Hollywood picture won an Oscar, and I'm just going to say this right now. Rebecca's fine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't his best.
But early on.
No, but it's weird that he
Even
wasn't
then.
recognized much after. Right? Like, he didn't really get the notoriety for the critical success.
He was
after.
nominated 5 times, I believe it was, for Best Director.
Never
He never
won.
won.
Yeah.
He never won. But his Rebecca itself was nominated for 11 Oscars.
Wow. Okay, that's kind of overkill then.
It just seems so weird. Total, by the way, his 53 films have grossed over $223 million worldwide and garnered a total of 46 Oscar nominations and only 6 wins.
Wow.
And none for Best Director. Even though he's considered one of the greatest directors of all time, he never got his due.
Right. So he actually popularized the term MacGuffin, which we hear and see a lot.
Which you always say it's a bad thing. Whenever you bring up MacGuffin, it's a bad thing.
When it's done right, for example, in one of his movies where...
Well, Hitchcock understands the MacGuffin because the MacGuffin doesing matter.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. So I'm going to get the definition of MacGuffin so the listener can actually understand
Yes.
it. Go for it, Kent.
Do you have it?
Do I have the definition of a MacGuffin? Yes, I do. 39 Steps was the first of his movies to introduce the MacGuffin plot device. The MacGuffin is an item or goal the protagonist is pursuing, one that otherwise has no narrative value. So think of...
What's the MacGuffin in 39 Steps?
In 39 Steps, it's the plans. It's the plans for the bomb.
Plans, okay.
So all it is, and you could put this in as a briefcase in Pulp Fiction or as the Tesseract in
Tesseract would be a good
Avengers.
example.
It's something everyone wants, but it really doesn't matter. It's how everyone's acting around it. This is the point of the movie. It doesn't matter what's in there in the suitcase. It just glows gold and everyone wants it, and that's all you need to know because the point of the movie is how everyone's trying to get to it. So the MacGuffin, when used right, is a good thing, Kent.
Right.
So whenever you bring it up with such derision and such snideness in your tone...
No, a lot of people use that as a Deus Ex Machina, and it shouldn't be. It
Now
should
you're getting
be
extra film nerdy because
Okay.
Deus Ex Machina means the god in the machine, and
Yes.
it's in Greek plays when the god would come down in a little pulley system and he'd say, "I solve everything," and then he'd go away.
Totally.
So whenever that happens in movies where something comes up that
And that
wasn't
should
brought
not
up before,
ever be the case.
it's a lazy way of just kind of fixing all the problems. That's a Deus Ex Machina.
Also, one thing before his death, I found this really interesting. I mean, he lived a very long life. He was knighted only 4 months before his death.
He actually refused a knighthood early
Did he refuse it, or did he just not show up?
I heard.
'Cause I read a couple things.
I heard he
Kind of the
refused
same, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then when actually he got knighted, he didn't even go to London to get knighted. They did it at Universal Studios.
He's
I
like,
believe.
I'll have an American do it.
Well, he was a pretty bad health at that point, and so he couldn't
Yeah.
travel. So they actually sent him a letter or something like that, and he's like, "Yeah, the Queen couldn't make it, but that's fine."
Also, I think as Oscar viewers, we should all thank him for being setting the standard for the best speech ever. So did you read about this?
Yes.
No. What's this?
So he did accept a big award at the Oscars. It was the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award in 1968, and his this is literally what he said: "Thank you very much indeed.
And then that was it.
Thank you very much indeed," and walked off stage.
If more people did that at award shows, I may start watching them again. Do you know what I find interesting, Kent?
What?
Hitchcock's typical dinner,
Oh no!
which consisted of...
I'm excited.
Before his weight loss, because he did have to go on a weight loss program, but before his weight loss, the typical dinner was a roast chicken, boiled ham, potatoes, bread, vegetables, relishes, salad, dessert, a bottle of wine, and some brandy.
Wow.
Wow.
That was a typical dinner for Alfred Hitchcock. After, to lose weight, he actually stopped drinking, and then he had coffee for breakfast and lunch, and then steak and salad for dinner. That was his diet, which also doesn't seem very good for your health either.
That sounds okay. Steak and
Every
salad?
day?
Yeah, I don't know.
Coffee for breakfast and lunch, and then a steak.
Yeah, maybe
and then a
not
salad.
that.
Just seems, yeah. Also, we should bring up Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Yes.
Ran for
10 years.
10 years.
1955 to 1965.
It was actually before Twilight Zone. I didn't realize that. I thought it was kind of a spin-off on this
right,
Twilight
because
Zone
there are
genre.
so many spinoffs from there.
Yeah. And so the fact that Alfred Hitchcock came first about the serialized, creepy, black and white horror series, that's Hitchcock.
Yeah, after doing this challenge, I would like to watch those as well.
Yeah, me too.
I'm sure you could find them
I've watched
somewhere.
a couple of them.
Yeah.
I've watched a couple of them in preparation for this because I was like, I got to
You
at least watch
did?
a couple of these. Yeah.
Above and Beyond.
Well, they were fun. It's also funny because you see the same actors pop up again and again in his movies. And then even in Alfred Hitchcock Presents, the one I watched, there was an actress, and I said, where do I know her from?
Yeah, he'll
oh,
pull
that's
it.
right. That was one of the movies I just barely watched.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they pop around there.
In fact, I have a list, but we may get into that. But yeah, a few actors like Jimmy Stewart, Cary Grant showed up a whole bunch of times. Grace Kelly a few times as well.
Mm-hmm. Also, I wanted to bring up this, Kent, because there's a lot of things you get angry about. And I want to...
What do you mean?
just-
What do you
never
mean,
happened.
Joel?
But Hitchcock also is the reboot king.
I had no idea until this challenge.
And
Honestly,
not really the reboot king. I say that facetiously, but he remade his own movie.
twice.
Yeah. He made, twice?
Yeah.
What do you mean twice?
Murder Mary.
Oh, no. I'm thinking of The Man Who Knew Too Much
and The Man Who Knew Too Much. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess twice, yeah. So he did The Man Who Knew Too Much in 1934, I want to say.
Yes, with Peter Lorre.
And then he remade it in 1956.
Jimmy Stewart.
With
And
Jimmy
Doris
Stewart.
Day.
And it's a different movie. Like, there are differences between them. But
That's the Que Sera movie.
yeah, Que Sera Sera. Very good. Mm-hmm. But I just thought it was so fascinating that he remade his own movie. Like, he's like, I didn't do it right the first time. I'm going to do it again.
I think he had a good point.
Well, and I do like the older one, too. That had some good
Yeah, the older
moments.
one's good, but the new one does it so much better. Maybe not totally necessary.
But then also, we should bring that up, too, Kate. A lot of people say 52 films of Hitchcock directed because they don't include the German remake of Murder.
No, not Murder. Murder!
Murder! Because it's got an exclamation
It's a
point.
silent movie, but it has an
Yeah.
exclamation point in the title.
And so he remade that in German. Like, he actually used the same sets, like in the same studio, but just they bring in a different group of actors at night, and he directed a German-spoken film, which we could not find in English anywhere.
No.
And I couldn't even find
So
it
you just
in
watched it in German?
I couldn't find it in German. I watched, Jacob.
I've seen them all.
I
The
watched-
German one's better.
I watched a Russian
Stop
dubbed
it.
version of the German movie.
and not only Russian dubbed, but it was like two people like we're doing now. Just
Talking over each other.
Yeah,
So
talking over each other.
It'd be like, hello, I'm speaking German.
Wie kommst du in die Schule? That's German.
Kind of like that, but
Yeah.
yeah. That was, but yeah, it was
Vodka.
like Russian talking over
That's
it.
Russian.
But the fact that I watched Murder not too long before, I was like, I know what's happening in this movie. I just can't understand what people are saying. It was ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
So before we get into films, I do want to touch on common themes that he has in his movies.
Please do.
So, for example, and we should talk about the women that Alfred Hitchcock works with.
Yes.
Because he chooses them very specifically.
He was very picky about who he wanted to act in his movies, and when he didn't get who he wanted, he kind of threw a little director fit and treated him. He was cold to them, I guess I could say.
And so, for example, like the women in most of his movies, they are often cold, elegant, and shrewd, and deeply troubled in most cases.
And that seems to be like kind of the 50s and 60s era, especially.
Yeah.
But I was actually surprised by how many female protagonists there were in Hitchcock movies.
Right.
Like a lot of them. It was like the female protagonist was one kind of driving the narrative.
Yeah, early on.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see.
Like, for example, like you said, it was usually a man accused of murder, and he's on the run, and there's usually a woman that saves him in the end. I'm almost surprised with how much he got away with in early movies.
It just seemed like in the first couple silent movies, he always found a way for a woman to change clothing. And it never showed anything scandalous. They couldn't back then. Right. But it was like you'd see like the dress flip up over the dressing wall, whatever they call that. And then like you'd kind of see a stocking poke out as she's putting on her stocking. And I'm like, oh, Hitchcock.
Right.
You naughty boy.
Also, he had a type for men as well. So his heroes were mostly tall and thin, and they also showed vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, it's strange. There weren't many like strong types, and if they were, there was something going on behind the scenes. Like they were maybe a little malicious.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny though, because like with actors, he like I said, we had a very low opinion of actors, and he especially got annoyed in the later, in the 60s when actors started coming in being like, "Oh, I'm a method actor. I improvise. This is what's my character's motivation." And he's like, "Your motivation is the paycheck. That's what you're doing." And then one of them was telling you how he just liked to improvise his lines and try different things. And Hitchcock told him, "That's not acting. That's writing. You're not a writer. You're an actor. Act. Do what I told you on the paper." Also, I was actually kind of just intrigued to see Hitchcock's output. So he did the most movies in the 30s. He made 14 movies in the 30s. And then he made 12 in the 40s, 11 in the 50s, only 5 in the 60s, and only 2 in the 70s. And he lived until 1980.
Yeah.
Like his failing health kind of limited his output in later life. Oh, I should mention he also made 9 in the 20s. So he had this whole range, but he kind of peaked in the 40s and then kind of lowered his output after that.
I mean, just how crazy, though, that this guy went from silent movies in Britain.
Yeah.
And then came here and started popularizing movies, won an Oscar, so he went to talkies. And then all of a sudden he went to this murder mystery, which just became this huge genre. Mm-hmm. And then he even was there for like the rated R boom of the 70s.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like before 1969, you just couldn't put stuff in movies.
No.
It just wasn't allowed. And then they made the ratings code. The Motion Picture Association came out with the ratings where it's like, okay, you can have G, PG, and R.
Yeah.
Actually, I think at the beginning it was just G and R. Hitchcock was like, okay, now we can show things that I didn't show before.
Yeah, and he
may have taken it too far.
A little bit.
Yeah, thank you for helping me edit that, by the way, kids.
Yeah. I actually clear played a movie for Joel on my own.
They didn't have a clear play, so I had to say, kid, what naughty parts do I need to jump over?
So I just want to say this quote from him real quick. So he said, I'm a typed director. If I made Cinderella, the audience would immediately be looking for a body in the coach. So he knew what he had to do for these movies.
He did. And I think he knew when he wasn't being true to himself, and that's why those movies may not be as passionate or impressive.
Right.
Because he knew what he was doing. And it's been amazing to see so many people try to copy what he did, because he wasn't just about suspense. He created, honestly, the cinematographers helped out with this. But he created shots that were unique that people were like, how did he do that? And then everyone would start copying it. Or he created plot devices with the writers.
Right.
And then they would come back with these amazing twists that no one expected. So I think the reason we wanted to do an Alfred Hitchcock show is because we respect the films that he made and the influence that he had. And also, he's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Perfect. His movies are kind of creepy.
I was going to say,
his movies are kind of creepy.
Okay.
He probably is too.
No, he was
let's
always
be honest.
like, I actually heard, I watched so many interviews with him too. Well, just a couple, like with Dick Cavett, especially, has a long interview with him, and he's so controlled and proper and apparently he almost never lost his temper on set. There's very few times when he apparently lost his temper and yelled at people, but most of the time he's just kind of like, this is the way it is. I'm in control.
Where's my boiled ham? That's when. That's actually a quote from him.
A boiled hound? Is that,
I want my boiled hound. When is
yes.
all right, let's start with your 5 worst.
I'm going to start first because I want to bring in some controversy here.
Already?
Yeah.
Because people are going to be mad about Hitchcock movies.
So much passion.
And so we are going to try to explain these movies.
Somebody cares
to
out
you,
there.
But these are the movies maybe that you might want to avoid.
The 5th worst one is widely praised, is one of his best, at least in the top 10, maybe
Really?
top 15. The Lady Vanishes, 1938.
What? You're putting that in the bottom?
While traveling in continental Europe, a rich young playgirl realizes that an elderly lady seems to have disappeared from the train.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever see Flight Plan with Jodie
Jacob's
Foster?
up to 19. Jacob's up to 19.
Did you see
I'm
that
up to
one?
way more than 19. Yeah, I've
No.
seen The Lady Vanishes on the plane.
Have you seen? No, it's a train.
Or train, I mean.
That was Flight Plan.
I've definitely seen it.
He did have a one on a plane, though, Jacob, if you remember that one. Foreign Correspondent.
Yes.
Really? No, I didn't see that
So
one.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
I expected a lot from this movie because I'd actually heard the title before I watched it, and I knew that it was that whole trope that I'd seen in other
You
movies.
just hated it because the title gave away the plot.
Yeah, The Lady Vanishes. This is literally about a woman who is makes friend with an older woman. The older woman disappears. She goes, "Where did my friend go?" And everyone on the train goes, "There was never anyone here."
But that's
Why
what's
didn't
so
you like
surreal
that one?
about
I
it.
thought it was
Because
pretty
it
good
was
for
a bumbling
1927.
comedy that turned into a spy thriller that didn't work at all. It took a half hour.
So you're saying that it's Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh, get real. You would.
say no.
That's a great
that
movie.
was just to provoke you.
Yeah, thank you. So it was a half hour before anyone even gets on this train, and it's all about these two buddies who are just watching people in a hotel, and then the flower pot falls.
No, the hotel was weird.
The hotel was so boring.
Yeah, there's
Might
a lot
have
of
been-
farcical
it was a
things
little bit
there.
filler.
And at the end,
beginning
it
there.
ends with a shootout with Nazis or something.
Yeah.
Or Russians. And it was...
I was amazed about how Hitchcock very often would not name who his villains were. They were just foreign villains.
Yeah.
Because you have to realize also, Hitchcock was making films during World War I just after World War I and World War II. So he was all about spies and espionage and foreign enemies.
But this one is it just doesn't explain itself. Like the woman who disappears, it never really explains what she's doing. Like she's the MacGuffin, but there should be a reason that she's disappeared or someone made
But she
her
was a
disappear.
spy.
Dude, hey, spoilers.
Spoilers for
spoil
1927?
away.
It's not
1938.
38.
Oh, 38. Okay, sorry. That changes everything.
And also-
It does. It's 11 years later.
In this movie, the passengers have to drive the train after it's caught in a snowbank, and the passengers should not be allowed to drive a train.
that's why it's in your bottom 5?
It's implausible.
I don't think that belongs to the
Passengers
bottom
driving
five.
No,
trains is
seriously,
implausible.
that movie finished, and I was like, I'm happy that's over. Because it's a longer one as well. It's almost 2 hours.
Wow. Yeah, I believe his longest one was actually Topaz. Was
Yes,
his longest
yeah.
one.
Topaz was too long.
Oh,
You haven't seen
we'll
it.
get to that.
I have seen it.
Okay, so my number 5 is from 1945, and I'm going to get in trouble for this one, I think.
Yes.
Because it's our friend Lindsay, who listens to the show on
Yeah.
occasion, Nerdy Blackbird. She mentioned Gregory Peck.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Don't you
Spellbound.
dare.
Spellbound is my
Okay.
number 5 worst.
Tell us what it's about.
Spellbound. A psychiatrist protects the identity of an amnesia patient accused of murder while attempting to recover his memory. So the short version is there's this group of doctors, and a new doctor comes in and says, I'm the new doctor that's going to take over the hospital. And they're like, okay, sure. And then he gets in there and starts to kind of realize that he's not who he says he is. And this movie, holy cow, it plays more like a 50s sci-fi movie than
does.
it does a 40s thriller.
I'm sorry, though. Any movie with Gregory Peck and Ingrid Bergman,
Okay.
I mean, that is quality
Block
together.
of Wood, not a great actress. I thought I liked Ingrid Bergman.
I'm sorry, Lindsay. I can't stop it. I don't know.
I like Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca, but I saw her in multiple roles in Hitchcock, and every time I'm like, she's not the right fit for this role. Like, she's supposed to be kind of this cold-hearted doctor who's trying... Okay, and the pseudoscience they put into this movie...
I'm just stunned right now.
So
that
ridiculous.
Spellbound made your bottom five.
I had a hard time not laughing at this movie when they're like trying to explain psychology in a way that is so farcical. And then they do this really cool kind of surreal...
You're making me want to see this one, to be honest.
Well, okay, so Salvador Dali actually designed a dream sequence for this movie, which...
It's worth watching.
I don't think I have seen this
Which
one.
originally was supposed to be 20 minutes long, a 20-minute long dream sequence. But they cut it down to 2 minutes. And it is just so laughable, this whole movie. Like, every time she draws... she puts a fork across the tablecloth and to make some lines in it.
Yeah.
And like Gregory Peck's like, oh no! And then the music just comes in like it's that theremin, like the 50s
Right.
sci-fi sound.
Right.
It's so unnerving.
I am shocked by
And then,
this.
okay, so ladies, let me ask you a question.
This is
here.
less shocking than your choice.
Is it?
I'm going to
It
ask the
is.
ladies in the room, if you're listening, a question. If you found out the guy that you were interested in was not only lying about who he was, but could be a killer, would you stand by him if you've only known them for 2 weeks?
Maybe if it's Gregory Peck.
No, they wouldn't say that.
Ladies, calm
They
down.
say for sure if it was Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
No, it was actually, they did have an actual, what was she? A therapist, a doctor who was on set, is supposed to be kind of the technical advisor, but apparently they never got along. The advisor and Hitchcock never got along.
Wow.
So, also, parts of this film were shot in Alta, Utah.
Oh, fun.
Interesting choice.
On to my number 4.
Yep.
Okay.
We mentioned it just a second ago. It's Topaz.
Yeah.
This one is not well
That,
liked.
that is one of the lower ones.
1969. And this was, this is Cold War era stuff. I'll read the synopsis. A French intelligence agent becomes embroiled in the Cold War politics, first with uncovering the events leading up to the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, and then back to France to break up an international Russian spy ring. I almost fell asleep reading that.
So no, this movie is a good depiction of marriage and how people are happy in marriage.
No, okay. So
It's
Holy
really
cow.
not. It's like one of the worst.
no, Hitchcock. I swear, Hitchcock. Even though he was married for 50 years, he didn't think anyone should be married at all.
Well, he just felt any marriage in these movies was either easy to get out of, or you just purposely made it worse.
yeah. So this movie, it's like a James
Just knew
Bond.
he had to sensationalize things,
Yes.
right?
Topaz is like
he knew what he
a
was doing.
James Bond movie for bureaucrats. Like, this is just the most dull, dry, boring movie I'd seen in a long time. And I actually watched it the whole time going, is anyone like following what's going on here? Does anyone care at this point? This is so dull. And apparently it used to be 143 minutes. And they had to chop it down to 127 minutes to go to theater. And they had 3 different endings that they filmed.
My number 4, because we need to go quicker, is from 1941. It's Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, that one was kind of goofy.
A couple who have been married for 3 years are shocked to learn that their marriage is not legally valid.
And then there are spies that have to kill each other, and Brad Pitt comes in.
Yeah, right? Like, they have that...
Yeah.
It's not a remake because it's just altogether a different movie.
That's how I
The
wondered.
same title, different movie.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
So here's the thing, like, this is a comedy of remarriage, but it's also one of these things where, like, hey, we've been married for a while, but my buddy kind of wants to hook up with you, and let's just see who pairs better. And it's screwball comedy, and if there's anything I just hate in movies,
It's screwball comedy.
Screwball comedy.
Yeah, that one.
And actually, he can do it well, and there's one movie where he does it okay. This is not that movie. And it's actually said that he made, so they call this a strained one-off attempt, like all the critics at the time, and it said that he made this for the star Carol Lombard. Like, that's why he made this movie. I really don't like this movie.
It's a bad reason.
It was one of those movies that I watched it the whole time going, I don't like either one of these characters.
Right.
Like,
You're not rooting for them to stay together.
but he's kind of a jerk at the beginning, and then
Right.
then when she, kind of starts dating other people, she becomes a jerk, and I'm like, what is going on?
Have you seen this one, Jake?
No.
Don't watch it.
Yeah.
My number 3 is from 1931. All mine are old.
Yeah, wait. So what was your number 5? That was what?
Lady Vanishes 38.
We didn't see
38.
that
Mr. and
coming.
Mrs. Smith
Joel,
41.
did you see that coming? Did you see that
They're all
coming?
going to be old?
Yeah, the ones he hates the most are the oldest ones.
After our Best Picture winner,
I
when
had
he's
the
like,
same thing with Best.
I hate everything from 1920 to 1940.
I hate the 1930s.
Apparently.
So 1931, Rich and Strange.
Now this one, okay, this is the second one about marriage that you picked, Kent.
Yes.
Do we need to get the doctor in here to kind of analyze what you're thinking?
Dude, Hitchcock, I just don't think he does it right, okay? Believing that an unexpected inheritance will bring them happiness, a married couple instead finds their relationship strained to the breaking point. That is the...
Straight to the breaking point, it doesn't even do it justice. They they walk on the cruise ship, and they're like, I guess we're going to go fool around now with other people.
So she hooks up with the Commodore. He hooks up
what?
with... No. She finds a Commodore. He finds a princess, and I say that in quotes. And, they basically are like, let's just do this. And then there's this ship sinking at the end that is so boring. It's like 40 minutes of them staying on the side of the ship going, I hope we're rescued.
Yeah, and then some Japanese people pick them up and cook a cat.
Yes. So this movie's only dance scenes.
This
and
is
then a
literally-
sinking
I'm not
ship.
making
Which one
any
was
of
this?
that up.
What was this one called again?
This is called...
Rich and Strange,
Rich and
otherwise
Strange.
known as East of Shanghai.
It's bad.
I don't even...
Joel, what's your number 3?
I haven't even heard of this one.
Well, I mentioned my number 3 already,
Yeah, you did
and
3.
it is from 1930. It's Juno and the Paycock, or otherwise known
It's a
as
bad movie.
The Shame of Mary Boyle. So here's the summary. During the Irish Civil
do it.
War in 1922, a family earns a big inheritance. They start reading A Rich Life, forgetting what the most important values are. And this is a movie that was based on a play, and you can tell because it's a play that someone has filmed. Like, Hitchcock doesn't really use any of his camera movements or tricks. It's people sitting around and talking, and it's not exciting at all.
People really like
it
the
takes
female
a-
lead, though, the matriarch role.
Yeah, they like her, and people like the play, and
Yeah.
it's probably a good play. And there,
I didn't think so.
There's some dramatic things that happen,
I haven't seen this one either.
Yeah,
it
this-
takes really incredible writing to get away with that sort of thing on screen.
and
Right.
it wasn't. It wasn't incredible writing. It really dragged, and then when the bad stuff started happening near the end, because spoiler alert, I don't mind spoiling these older ones, the bad ones. But you find out they only think they got an inheritance. It turns out it was a miscalculation, and they didn't get the inheritance at all, and everything starts getting repossessed, and their son commits suicide. So it's a little bit depressing.
Yay.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, all
That's
the
your
cats
number
survive. That's my number 3.
Okay.
My number 2 was one that was literally a silent film, meaning there was no accompaniment. And I got so distracted by how quiet it was, I started playing silent movie music on my phone just so I could have something going on with the TV. And it's Downhill, otherwise known as When the Boys Leave Home, 1927. Here's the summary. Public schoolboy Roddy Berwick is expelled from school when he takes the blame for a friend's charge, and his life falls apart in a series of misadventures. But this movie, Downhill, is the one where I spent the whole movie trying to figure out why on earth any of the characters were doing what they said what they were doing. Like, for example, these two buddies in college together, or in high school together, so they're about to go to college.
Yeah, prep school.
Yeah, and so they go and hang out with this girl at her shop, and then they leave, and then like the next scene, she's in the principal's office saying, she doesn't even say what's wrong.
No.
She just basically says,
And
him.
points.
It was
Yes.
him, and she points to the wrong guy. Because basically what happens is, I had to read the summary after, she's pregnant, or she says she's pregnant, and then she blames the guy that she wasn't even with. And then the one guy who she wasn't with goes, yes, it was me. And he says it because his friend is poor and he's rich. And he's like, you got that scholarship. You need to keep it. I'm going to take the blame for this. And then the whole movie, he kind of just keeps taking the blame for this action. And it just sets his life. He ends up being a escort at a dance hall for old women.
So things turned out well.
Yeah.
Really progressive movie.
But the whole time I'm like, just tell the truth. Like, what is the harm in telling the truth in this case?
Right.
It annoyed me. So one good thing I'll say about this is they have kind of a cool shot.
You got to protect people from the truth, Joel.
You do.
Have movies taught you
Sometimes.
nothing?
We protect you from the truth all the time, Jacob.
I know. Thank you.
But no, there's one shot actually that I enjoyed this movie, and I want to bring that up.
Okay.
Just because it was one that I went, oh wow, because it says at one point, it says the land of make believe, and it shows him kind of like in a tuxedo, and he looks like he's successful.
Oh, yeah.
And then the camera pans out, and you realize he's just an actor on a stage, like he's in a performance. And so he wasn't really, things weren't well for him anymore.
Oh,
so I
that's
was like,
clever.
that was one thing.
Yeah,
that I
that was
went,
clever.
okay, there's one glowing part.
Speaking of being fancy, my number 2 is from 1928. It's Champagne.
Oh yeah, Champagne wasn't good either.
A spoiled heiress defies her
You guys saw such old ones.
A spoiled heiress.
But wait, Kent, have you
Yes, yes,
left have you left early 1930s?
Yeah, 1941 was one of my movies.
Which one was that?
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Oh, that's right. That was, yeah.
A spoiled heiress defies her father by running off to marry her lover. However, Daddy has a few tricks up his sleeve. So this movie, I think Hitchcock got bored or lazy because he thought he was really clever, or maybe someone thought this was a clever trick. He shoots the camera through a champagne glass, and that's the effect that's used about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Because you see like it's a dance hall and it's all bubbly and you're like, oh, that's so clever. And then you see it many more times, like you've got nothing.
It's like, okay. Well, and this one was funny too, because the whole premise is this girl, this spoiled brat.
Yes.
Her dad suddenly says, we've lost everything. We're poor. And so they have to live together in like this house, and she has to learn how to cook and clean. And he actually didn't lose any of the money at all. It's all just a trick to get his daughter to humble herself. I didn't hate this one as much, but it's definitely near the lower end.
Do you know who really hated this movie?
You?
Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, he did.
It's his least favorite.
Really?
Yes.
Did he say that for that one?
Yep.
Okay.
He was asked in 1976, what's your least favorite movie you've ever done? Champagne.
I think he changed his answers a couple times on both favorite and least favorite.
Well, he had one that kept coming up as favorite. I read. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Number 1, least favorite from
Your number one least favorite.
1939.
Oh, God.
What's it going to be?
Jamaica Inn.
No.
Yep.
Jamaica Inn wasn't that bad.
It's bad.
This was his last film in Britain.
In Cornwall in 1819, a young woman discovers that she's living near a gang of criminals who arrange shipwrecks for profit. So this one was adapted from a book, and Hitchcock was working with this author, and it's the same author who actually did Rebecca. So really soon after, so the author actually saw Jamaica Inn and said, I don't know if I want to work with this guy anymore. This is a really bad movie, and tried to hold back the rights to Rebecca, but eventually gave them over.
I didn't think Jamaica Inn was that bad.
It was. Oh, I thought it was so hammy.
Oh, who's the main actress in that though?
Oh, it's who cares?
No, I was gonna say
Because it was 100 years ago.
no, but I thought Maureen O'Hara, the main actress,
Yes.
I thought she was really good in that. Like, I like Maureen O'Hara. She's the mom from Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes.
But and then Charles Lawton, you have to enjoy Charles Lawton.
I did not at all.
He's Mutiny on the Bounty.
Nope.
Oh,
It just
I
seemed
like
like
this
it
one.
was typecast, and there was really, I mean, it was.
I hate it when you pick this is your least favorite when it's my most favorite.
Oh, great! Here we
That's
go.
not true.
So, Joel,
That's not true.
What's your number one?
What's your number one? Yeah.
Well, I want to point out that Kent was like, 30s, 20s the whole time. And I have gone, just to point this out, 1945, 1969, 1930, 1927, and this one from 1964.
So diverse.
Marnie.
Of course you did.
Marnie.
It's your number one worst.
Crazy.
Jacob,
That
I want to
is
tell you.
silly.
Jacob, I want to
That's-
tell you. I went into this.
You're a liar.
I went into this going,
I don't
okay.
believe him either.
I said Marnie had the top spot. Let's see if anyone can knock it out. And no one did.
Did you watch it again?
I read the summary again and I watched a couple videos of it.
Unbelievable. No.
Jacob, I had to watch 33 movies in 21 days.
I don't believe you.
No, so I went
Jake,
through.
I rewatched this movie for you.
You did?
I did.
And I watched this, Jacob.
And I guess it didn't make your bottom 5.
When I reread the synopsis, I got angry all over again. And none of these other ones made me
It's
angry.
a good synopsis.
No, it's a terrible movie. Let me tell you. Okay, here's the summary. Mark marries Marnie, although she is a habitual thief and has serious psychological problems, and tries to help comfort her and resolve them. Now, it says Mark marries Marnie, but really he blackmails her into
Yeah,
marrying him.
that is what he does.
And then she does not want to be touched.
He says, she's like, I'm not some pet you've caught. And he's like, yeah, and I've caught something really dangerous this time. Because it's Sean Connery.
Yes. And also, and I don't want to go too into detail, but she does not like to be touched, and he does not respect her wishes. And it's a very disturbing scene that shouldn't have been in the movie.
That is true.
And so I watched this, and I think the reason I want to say honestly, I think the reason
Is
this
this
is my
the
number
reason?
one is because it had the potential. It has Sean Connery and Tippi Hedren, and it drops so far down. Like,
Yeah, but
I didn't
nearly-
have expectations for a lot of these other ones. This one I had expectations, and they were
Was
totally
it just the
undercut.
twist was too dark? Because the twist is actually explains a lot.
It
No,
does. It does. It's like
no,
the
no,
whole
no.
thing wraps up really well with
I'm,
that.
I'm fine with the twist at the end, but the problem is I didn't like Mark. I didn't like Marnie. I didn't like any of the surrounding characters. I didn't like anyone in this movie.
What about the scene where she's stealing from the safe? Like, that's so well shot.
So suspenseful.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Everything has those little moments of, oh, that part's good. But then just the bad did just outweigh it.
And the cleaner's deaf.
Yeah.
It was so great because you go through all this like pain watching her, and then
And I do think Tippi Hedren overacted like crazy in that movie.
But this is post-Psycho. Like, Hitchcock should have known better at this point how to do things. And he actually wanted Grace Kelly to be the main role.
Yeah.
But she was the Princess of Monaco by that point, and they did not want to see her portraying a thief. And
With a really troubled past.
yes, a very troubled past.
very,
We'll say
very
that.
troubled.
So yeah, this one was just one that I just was disappointed in when I first saw it, and then reading the synopsis and watching the clips again, I'm like,
I'm sorry, I
really
rewatched
don't
this
like
one
movie.
just for Jake on this one. It's nowhere near bottom 5.
Oh, it's number one. Worst.
Like, I admit it's a little overlong, but other than that, like, man, there's really great psychological stuff in this movie. It's creepy and unnerving. And,
Yeah.
No, it's just generally unpleasant. It's not even fun unpleasant. It's bad unpleasant. So there you go. There's my number one. Oh, by the way, 1964 New York Times Film Review called it Hitchcock's most disappointing film in years. And then they also said that
You're cherry picking.
You know, that's exactly what you're
Hendren
doing.
and Connery.
You can find plenty of reviews that like celebrate this
that
movie.
it had an amateurish script and glaringly fake cardboard backdrops. So there you go.
Well, that's Hollywood
That's
back then.
that's most Hitchcock movies.
Oh man, Hitchcock. even in Family Plot, his last movie in 1976. He still did the rear projection when they were driving. Like it always looked so bad whenever people were driving in his movies. But you know.
Okay, so let's explain what we're going to do because we just did our bottom five. We want to give everything in the middle because we're going to get to the best.
We're going to get to our top five, but we wanted to give some love to the middle because there's 53 movies.
Yes.
We're not going to give them to all the awards.
No.
Not everyone gets an award here.
And we'll be a little bit quick with this one, but we want to give these awards. We want to call these very honorable mentions.
And we also should mention we were not allowed to include any from our top five or our bottom five in these middle awards. So when we say something like coolest effect, we're not talking about...
if we said scariest, like everyone would kind of say, oh, it's that movie with the, the guy at the hotel. But
you don't want to say the word psycho?
We'll get there. But so we're not going to include our top. So these are very
or our bottom
honorable mentions.
Yes. So Jacob, if you want to jump through the categories, let's go through these quickly.
Here comes the categories. What is the best silent feature?
We probably can agree on this one, I think. I chose The Lodger.
Oh, it's The Lodger for sure.
So The Lodger was his second movie, I want to say,
1927.
1928.
A landlady suspects her new lodger is the madman killing women in London.
So it's kind of the Jack the Ripper tale, where you don't know who the murderer is, but it actually, I thought I knew where this movie was going, and it surprised me, and I went, good job, movie.
Do you know why you thought you knew where this movie was going? Because so basically this guy moves into this place and there's a romantic thing, but there's also Jack the Ripper in town, essentially. Mm-hmm. And they think it's this guy. Hitchcock wanted this guy to actually be the villain in the end. But like many of his movies, the studio said, no, he is a pop star. This guy was a pop star in the movie. He has to be innocent.
Spoiler alert.
It's 1927.
Also, they have a really cool shot when he wanted to show the guy pacing in the room. So he actually got a glass floor and filmed underneath it.
Oh,
so
that's
that you
cool.
could see the walking back and forth and the people looking up.
Yeah, because, you're like, what's going on upstairs? There's so much movement.
It was a silent movie. You couldn't hear the footsteps.
Yes.
So he let you see them.
Also, it has one of the coolest shots in Hitchcock movies because you see the lodger coming upstairs, but you look down the stairs, all you see is this hand
sliding around.
It's
a really
so
cool
good.
shot.
All you see is the
cool.
hand.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So yeah, Lodger.
All right, next is what was the best new to you movie?
Meaning the first time we saw it was during this challenge.
Right.
Guys, mine's from 1943, so look, I'm digging back.
This means not in your top five.
Yeah, this means
Yeah.
this is the first time I watched it, and I am thankful I did. Shadow of a Doubt. So,
Oh, yeah,
is a good
Shadow of
one.
Doubt.
a young woman discovers her visiting uncle
Oh, Jacob's up to 20.
may not be the man
It's
he
going to keep
seems
going
to
up
be.
too.
So this movie, it's like, you don't trust this one character in the movie at all as the audience, or the girl doesn't, but he seems to
Aren't they
get
supposed
away.
to be faster?
Yes, he gets away with this is purported to be Hitchcock's favorite movie.
Oh, yeah, he did
Shadow
say
of a
that. He
Doubt.
did mention that a
Really?
couple times.
Yeah.
Best new to me, I actually said Family Plot.
Really?
This was
That's
first...
the last one.
It's
isn't
because
it?
it was
the last
quirky?
movie. Well,
It is quirky.
It wasn't
It's
received
got
very well.
No, it wasn't received very well. And this was one of the first ones I watched during my binge. And I was like, man, if they're all going to be like this, I'll be happy. Because it's about a phony psychic trying to help find the...
Swindle. She was swindling an
Well,
old
no,
woman.
she was helping.
Yes.
No, they were trying to help find the heir to
Yes.
this fortune. And the whole time I was like, why don't you just say you're the heir? But they didn't. But I really liked the way it was kind of like they were trying to give a good message, but then this guy thought they were trying to give a bad message, and there was this miscommunication.
Tonally, it's so different from all of his movies.
It's goofy.
Because I watched that one like without any context of time and like the release date on this movie, and I watched it like after whatever else, and I'm like, what is going on here?
Hitchcock
Just the
loved
other
his...
day.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, just the other day, I was driving down a mountain road and with my wife, and she said, if we start going out of control, I'm going to start climbing all over you. Because in the movie, that's what happens. It's
Take it easy.
What? No. Like during the movie, they're obviously doing this rear projection and their car goes out of control. And the wife character, or the girlfriend character, she starts freaking out and like climbing all over the seats and like blocking his face. And like, I'm like, what are you doing?
Hitchcock had a thing with cars out of control. It was generally Cary Grant who was drunk driving
Yeah.
them,
No, yeah.
but he loved the out of control car chases over the cliff edge.
Yeah. All right, Jacob, let's move on.
Which one was the least Hitchcockian?
I'll go first. I'll say Under Capricorn. So Under Capricorn is
the musical?
No,
Nope.
it's not the musical. That's the
Waltzes from
Strauss
Vienna.
one. Yeah. But this one was 1949, and it's a young gentleman goes to Australia where he reunites with a now married childhood sweetheart. And it's a period piece.
Yes.
Like it's kind of like this. It's Australia just getting settled, and it felt like it could be directed by anyone. To be honest, like I watched this one going, this could be.
Except for he
anyone.
had some returning cast. That was about it.
He did, and there was one part at the end where I went, okay, that feels a little Hitchcock. But the whole rest of the movie, I was like, this.
Well,
could
it was
be
a
anyone.
really terrible marriage story, so it's a Hitchcock movie for sure.
Yeah,
At
exactly.
least that part.
All right.
So mine is actually Waltzes from Vienna, 1934.
Yes, and that was about the composition of the Blue Danube.
Yes, so Johann Strauss, elder and younger. And this one, it doesn't even have it fades in and out a lot and uses the music. I didn't really care for this one. This almost made my bottom 5.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I thought this one was kind of a middle of the road, like, and maybe it's because I like the music.
Yeah.
But man, Hitchcock used a lot of waltzes in his movies too.
Yes, he did.
Next is the worst title.
Juno and the Paycock.
Otherwise known as The Shame of Mary Boyle.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that's good
What's
enough.
Juno and the
That's all-
Paycock?
yeah.
That is a stupid title.
That's all you need to hear.
No, and Juno is the name of one of the characters, and then a paycock is another word for peacock. It's someone who's strutting around thinking they're important.
Quit paycocking.
And then I actually chose The Ring.
Oh,
And,
Oh,
and,
7 days.
and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Because
Wait,
those are-
both?
I chose them both because both of them I'm like, yeah, these have nothing to do with the movies that I know and love. I shouldn't say
Oh
love.
my gosh. Is that really where you're going with that?
Well, no, because I actually did choose The Ring because I was like, I hate that every time I see this, I think I'm going to get a horror movie, and I get a boxing movie.
I hoped I was going to get a horror movie.
And it was a boxing movie, and then it also has to do with the wedding ring. So, but still, The Ring, pretty general, and not as good as the real title holder of that.
Not as good as The Ring 2, obviously.
or Juno and the Paycock. Can't you win that round?
There's no
There's
scores.
scores. I just made a score. Best romantic tension.
I chose North by Northwest because I feel like
Very interesting that you chose this one at this point.
because that's
Why
one
is
of those.
that, Ken?
Well, no, only because I feel like North by Northwest, and yes, that means it doesn't make my top 5.
That's
But-
what I'm saying.
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
It did not make my top 5, but I really like. Okay, I'll say this.
It might not be my top 5 either.
I don't think Cary Grant was that good in the Hitchcock movies he was in, except for North by Northwest.
What?
Yes.
You're insane.
That is crazy.
I know,
To
and I
Catch
know
a
it sounds
Thief?
crazy. I did not like To Catch a Thief. That almost made my bottom. But I thought the relationship between Cary Grant and Ava Marie Saint. Is it Ava Marie Saint?
your bottom?
Yeah, it's Eve Marie Saint.
That's what it is. I thought their relationship was one of the few where I went, I'm buying into this, and they really should get together.
Like the double entendres they do. Is that what you mean?
Well, that was,
You know.
yeah. All right, Kent.
Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman in Notorious.
No!
Yeah.
No. Did that make my... Hold on. Did I put that for least? Because I may be getting into that.
So this movie
Oh,
is
no, I
a
didn't.
woman is asked to spy on a group of Nazi friends in South America. How far will she have to go to integrate herself with them?
Oh, no, sorry. I was thinking of Suspicion. Notorious.
So in Notorious, like these two, like he's meant to hire her for a job and he's by the government, but they fall in love and then he says, you actually have
They
to go.
fall in love in 5 minutes.
Well, that's,
Boom.
Well,
it's old
Hitchcock.
movies. And he says, now you have to go marry this.
I hate you. I love you.
You have to go and marry this Nazi and get as many secrets as you can from them. And it's like this star-crossed lover thing because he is actually like hurt. He is broken up that she has to go live this other life and she feels betrayed by him. I actually
She's
thought,
supposed to be long, short, right?
oh yeah, because you've been super short.
I said North by Northwest. I didn't even give a plot summary.
We all know North by Northwest because it's great.
Is there really a plot?
In North by Northwest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really.
What?
What? Wow.
Well, Jacob hasn't watched all the Hitchcock
Yeah.
yet, so
yeah.
he doesn't understand.
He's seen what, 13 now?
Yeah, maybe.
Next up is the least believable romance.
1955, The Trouble with Harry.
Yeah.
Hitchcock
that's fair.
comedy about a dead guy that people find, and it's
They find and have no reaction to the entire time.
no reaction. Even his, I'm going to spoil
Look,
this.
this is the
It's a
humor.
comedy.
This is the point of the movie, though.
No.
Is that no one
Even,
reacts
Jacob,
to a
you
dead body.
haven't seen all Hitchcock. You don't understand.
So his wife, played by Shirley MacLaine, in her first role, apparently, she meets this guy who is an artist, and they fall in love. His name is John Forsythe, the actor.
Well,
They don't fall in love.
No, they fall in love.
They fall in love.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. They talk about getting married.
They do talk about getting married. It's not because they fall in love.
They do fall in love.
He's just like, I'd like to paint you. And she's like, you're nice.
He
You're
actually-
nice. Let's get married.
Yeah.
Yeah, least believable
No,
romance.
that's
I'll
reasonable.
buy into that.
Yeah.
I chose The Paradigm Case.
Also, Gregory Peck.
Unbelievable! I am shocked.
The block of wood, Gregory Peck strikes again because he's a handsome block of wood, but the guy has no range. But here's the thing about the Paradigm Case. So the Paradigm Case is
a great quote. Yeah.
The Paradigm Case is about a lawyer who's forced to defend a woman who's accused of murder.
Yes.
And he meets her and immediately is like, I'm allured by you. Even though he's married, and he starts trying to cheat on his wife with this woman he just met who doesn't even like him. Like the whole time I'm like, I don't buy into the fact that you like this woman. And that all these people are smitten by her because she had no magnetism whatsoever.
I totally disagree. I think his range in that movie, sorry, we won't go into it. I may bring it up later. But based on him being a bad lawyer, based on his obsession, was really clever.
I actually had to look up when To Kill a Mockingbird was because I was like, oh man, he should not have done this after To Kill a Mockingbird because his performance is terrible. And I was like, oh no, he did To Kill a Mockingbird later. He learned from his mistakes in this movie.
Wow.
Also, honorable mention to Julie Andrews and Paul Newman in Torn Curtain, because as much as I like those two actors,
They do not.
Yeah.
they don't mesh well.
No, they don't vibe at all.
And also another honorable mention to Cary Grant and Suspicion. That's why I was getting mad
Are you
at
taking forever?
Yeah, Joel. All right. What's the most impressive effect?
I actually chose from Saboteur, 1942. They built a to-scale model of the Statue of Liberty's hand in a studio.
Really?
They climbed all over it, and then at one point, a character falls off the edge. And nowadays it's completely done with CGI and wires, and it's very easy to do. But back then they had a black floor and a black saddle, and they had him lay back on it, and they moved the camera up to make it look like the guy was falling.
Yeah.
And everyone's mind was blown. No one had any idea. He said that people still years after would ask him, how did you make that look so realistic? So Statue of Liberty hand. Saboteur.
For the most impressive.
Sabotage. Saboteur.
Those are two different movies,
Saboteur,
by the way.
That's the one.
My pick is actually from Suspicion. So this has Joan Fontaine and Cary Grant.
You're going to kill one of my other ones, I think.
I may. So here's what happens. So you don't really trust Cary Grant. You may be up to no good, and he's carrying a glass of milk on a tray upstairs.
Yes.
And you're supposed to think, or maybe it should be, it's poison in the milk. And the milk is lit up. I don't know.
Glowing.
Yeah, it's
he put a light in the
glowing.
milk. And not like a big one, like it's not obvious. It's drawing attention to
So
it.
it's this dramatic irony because you see him come upstairs and everything is dark around him except for this glowing glass of milk, and he puts it right next to her and she stares at it for a couple minutes, and you're like, oh, don't drink that. Do not drink that.
Don't drink the milk. What's in the milk?
Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
Does she drink it?
Oh, we're not going to tell you.
Watch the movie.
I haven't seen this one.
It's not a very good romance, but yeah.
All right. Best leading man.
Well, this is a big one.
I'm going first.
Please do.
Gregory Peck.
No.
I'm not sure he means that, actually.
You really don't mean
The
that,
Paradigm
do you?
Case and Spellbound.
Those are both two. You're not really saying Gregory Peck, are you?
Yes, I am.
Because you couldn't pick from your top. Okay, I feel better now.
Look, I couldn't pick from my top, and I really
You can
like
pick actors from your top.
No, I decided not to.
Oh.
Because even though they were in other movies, I thought Gregory Peck was this great leading man who wasn't in the best Hitchcock movies, but I actually really liked his character in The Paradigm Case.
If the majority of movies are outside the top, you can pick him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the rule. I just made up.
Not going to do it.
Honestly,
I will stick with Gregory
They
Peck.
can be in the top. That doesn't make any sense.
I know.
This is actor, not movie.
Because I chose James Stewart.
Which makes sense.
In what movie?
In Rope, Rear Window, The Man Who Knew Too Much, and Vertigo.
None of those are in your top 5?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying
He's saying because he can pick the actor.
Outside.
He can pick the actor.
It's the actor. And so I feel like James Stewart, I feel like we got to see a bunch of different types of roles from him.
Do you have a different choice?
Look, I could pick him or Cary Grant or other people, but for the person that's not in my top 5, it's definitely Gregory Peck.
I think you misunderstood the rules.
All right, and that's followed by Best Leading Lady.
Well, that's got to be Grace Kelly. I mean, Dial M for Murder, Rear Window, To Catch a Thief. She is the peak of elegance in these movies. And every time she was on the screen, I was enjoying the movie. Whereas a couple other actresses, every time they put them in there, I was like, I can't really take you. I'm sorry.
I misunderstood the rules again.
We talked about this.
But I'm going to go, but I actually want to go hipster on this one.
Okay.
Because this actress, I thought she was great and really commanded the screen. Joan Fontaine from Rebecca and Suspicion.
Okay.
So she actually won the Academy Award for Rebecca.
For Best Actress, yeah.
Yeah, and I honestly thought...
she is very captivating, actually.
She is, she carries a movie all by herself. She didn't need Cary Grant at all in that movie. And yeah, I think she's absolutely fantastic.
That's a great
I wish she
choice.
were in more, to be honest.
Yeah. Who's the most interesting villain? That's a good one. What do you guys
And
gonna
it
choose?
can't be in our top 5 or bottom 5.
Wait, why can't this one be? Because this is the villain.
Because we
that's
couldn't.
the villain's
'Cause it would
the
give
movie,
too
not
much
the
away.
actor.
I don't even know what the rules are anymore.
No,
that actually makes
The
sense.
actor is outside the film.
No.
Like they were cast multiple times. The villain is in one film.
Mine is the trapeze artist from Murder.
From Murder. In his giant peacock outfit.
It was actually kind of a shocking scene. That's actually not the case. The most interesting villain, and there are some really good ones, but is Mrs. Danvers from Rebecca, 1940.
Oh, that's a good choice.
It is, and the story of Rebecca is a self-conscious bride is tormented by the memory of her husband's dead first wife. Here's the thing, Mrs. Danvers, she is the housemaid. Every scene she's in, Hitchcock put her as the focal point. And she comes up and she always whispers. She has this deadpan whisper.
Yeah,
and
she's
she commands. Oh man, she bosses this woman around. And
She reminded me of the maiden under Capricorn as well.
oh yeah, that's true. Except for
Except
like this one, there is evil in her eyes.
Guys, I don't know about these rules because I want to know your real picks.
Well, we'll get to that. when
We'll
back
get
to
there.
Real
We'll
Picks.
give so much love to our best.
And then my most interesting villain is actually Herman Gromek from Torn Curtain.
really,
What?
So here's the thing about Torn Curtain is that it's about a husband and wife. He goes behind the Iron Curtain and during the Cold War, and he's a spy, and Julie Andrews follows him. But then there's this character Gromek, who is
Hans
kind of
Landa?
like he's from Indiana Jones.
no,
Oh, no.
Inglorious.
Oh no! See, I'm thinking the guy from Indiana Jones,
Okay.
with the glasses and the black hat and the black coat. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was kind of an homage to this one, because the way he talks to him, he's just like, "Is this a saying? Do you still say this here?" And like, he's so very casual about it all. And then his death scene is horrific
Yeah, it's the best part of the movie.
because the movie itself is middling, but
Yeah.
Gromek and then this lady that comes near the end who wants her sponsors are both the most interesting parts of the movie, and they stand out so much that I had to put him as my most interesting villain of my middle choices.
That took way too long. All right.
Thanks, Jake.
Jacob doesn't appreciate Hitchcock as much.
Yeah,
as we
yeah.
do.
He's only
Yeah.
seen like what, 12?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Best acting. Are we
Once
saying movie
again,
best acting or
This is best
actor,
acting
actress?
in a role, and so this can't be in our top 5 or bottom 5. Oh yeah, it's me. I actually chose Henry Fonda in The Wrong Man because it just like the title sounds, he's a guy who's accused of something he didn't do.
A much slower Hitchcock movie.
Oh, very slow,
Especially
And
for the time.
It's,
I just
based on
watched-
it's based on a true story too.
Yes.
that's actually one I just watched a couple recently, and that was one of
Hey,
those.
you're up to 9. But so Henry
gonna slash
Fonda.
your tires.
But I spent the whole time like so stressed out for this guy because you could tell he was just trying to do what was right, and you just felt for this guy. But
Yeah.
then again, there's also that question of, but what if he did it? This is a Hitchcock movie. So Henry Fonda, I was compelled.
Well,
by
except
his
the
performance.
title, The Wrong Man. You know he didn't do it from the beginning, and they say it's a true story.
Yeah, but you never know.
No, you do know.
You know,
He didn't do it.
hey, you know, but you never know.
Yeah,
Okay.
you never know with Hitchcock. It's like it could be a twist at the end.
My pick is Robert Walker as Bruno Antony from Strangers on a Train.
That is an excellent choice.
Yes, that's a great.
I mean,
wait,
he's-
that didn't make your top 5?
I know. Oh, I am sad about it too. Okay,
Wow.
this is a great movie that I didn't watch it until 3 years ago. Jake had me watch this one. It is such a great movie and may show up again on this list somewhere. But this guy is so, oh man, so malicious.
Well, he's so just like he's like a child with a machine gun. Like
Yes.
he's like so happy and go lucky
Yeah.
about what he's doing.
Oh, he's just
Essentially,
That was
if
terrifying.
people don't know
Yeah.
the story, he meets a tennis star on
We're
a
making
train.
into it later, Kent. Okay.
No, this is a great
Oh
premise.
no, yeah, no.
Yeah,
We'll get to it later.
We'll get to it later,
Oh, okay,
Jacob.
okay.
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Is this one of the ones when we were trying to convince you they were good old movies? And
Yes.
we gave you a list, and I
Yes,
put that
this
on
was
it?
one of the
Okay.
first.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is one of the two that Jacob
You were trying to
saw.
convince me the old movies were good.
I think that's what it was.
And
wasn't
this
it?
one won
We
me
made a
over.
list.
This
Yeah.
is one of the two that Jacob had seen of Hitchcock movies.
Two now.
I'm gonna spill my drink accidentally all over your computer.
You went from slashing his tires to just spilling drinks.
Yeah.
He's got a really
I got to
weird
start
revenge
somewhere. I
style.
can't go outside yet. Why did Hitchcock keep casting them?
Let me give some repeated castings because there's a lot in Hitchcock movies. For
do.
example, Ingrid Bergman, 3 movies. Grace Kelly, 3 movies. Edmund Gwenn, whoever that is, 4 movies.
You know who he is?
No.
He's Santa Claus from Miracle on 34th Street. He was.
Oh,
in
that's
so
the
many
best
of those
Hitchcock movie. That's in my top 5,
he was,
actually.
No, I saw
What?
No, because I recognized him as Santa Claus from the Miracle on 34th Street, and then he was in so many of his movies.
Okay.
How many did you say there were?
4, actually.
yeah.
Cary Grant, 4. Jimmy Stewart, 4. And number 1,
This is your
this
answer?
is the pick. Claire Greet, and she was a nobody.
Oh.
I'm wondering if Hitchcock owed her a favor or if she had blackmail on Hitchcock. She was a fortune teller in The Ring. She was
These are all the silent movies when they'd make like 40 pictures in a week.
she was
Right.
uncredited in most of her movies, but she was in 7 of his early silent movies. She's just
Probably
an old
because
woman.
she was on the lot in his studio.
no,
like,
she
regular.
had secrets about Hitchcock.
The only logical conclusion.
I chose Ingrid Bergman because in Spellbound, Notorious, and Under Capricorn, every single time, like in Under Capricorn,
on you.
she's supposed to be like this Irish immigrant. In Spellbound, she's supposed to be this serious doctor. In Notorious, she was supposed to be a good actress, and none of them worked for me.
Unbelievable.
I know. I was
I can't believe you
shocked.
didn't like Notorious. Like even like the wine cellar scene.
Okay. Oh, I should. I'm bashing on Notorious,
Yeah.
but I actually did like Notorious.
The thing
I just
is
didn't like
with-
the relationship.
even the lesser Hitchcock movies, there's always like these gems.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah. There's
yeah.
always something to pull out.
Yeah. Next up is Miss Independent.
Because we wanted to give a couple rules. Like I said, there were so many good female protagonists.
There were.
And so I actually chose Jane Wyman in Stage Fright.
Really?
I really liked her character. So Stage Fright is the story. Once again, it's mistaken identity where this guy's framed for a murder.
Is she
and
the
she's-
older actress?
No. That's
Okay.
that's why can't I think of her? Why can't I think
She
of her
was
name?
really famous in the day.
Marlene Dietrich.
Yes.
But Jane Wyman, she was kind of the girl next door, and she tries to like go undercover. It doesn't quite work out. But then she was there solving the mystery the whole time, and the whole time I'm like, I really like this character. But apparently she didn't get along with Hitchcock at all.
Wow.
Like they did not like each other. But she did a great job in Stage Fright 1950.
I'm going with Doris Day.
Really?
Doris Day in The Man Who Knew Too Much remake,
Yeah.
1954. And just a real quick synopsis of the story. An American physician and his wife take matters in their own hands after assassins planning to execute a foreign prime minister kidnap their son.
Joel, you're not going to sing at any time? during this?
Que sera, sera.
It's kind of a cool scene at the
Whatever
end,
will be.
right?
It is. That's actually
Here's
a really
the thing.
good moment.
It's actually a good like reflection because she sings this song to put her son to bed. And then in the end, the song comes back up. I don't really want to spoil it. But also, she...
If we get into the 50s, we don't want to spoil the movies,
Exactly.
but 20s.
20s
Jimmy
and 30s,
Stewart in this
yeah.
movie is kind of bumbling oaf. Like, he's Jimmy Stewart, but
Yeah.
she owns this
She
movie.
does.
She does a great job.
It's
She
all about
is-
her.
It is
at the
all
end.
about her. And I'm saying maybe
Her
this
and the
will come
kid.
up. I don't want to say too much, but in the orchestral scene, actually, it will come up. It is awesome and super intense.
It's a very intense scene. Like,
Yes.
I mean, it's suspenseful.
Yeah.
It's Hitchcock's known for.
It is.
By the way, I timed that last one. I talked for 10 seconds. Kent talked for 5 hours.
Points to me.
I guess he loves Hitchcock more, huh?
Thank you.
Well, you'd say that because you've only seen a half of one of his movies.
All right, next up.
He fell asleep during
Jeez.
Juno and the Paycock.
That's the one you chose, Jake. Come on.
I can resist. Did you know it also means peacock? Huh?
Yeah.
Learn that, yeah.
You learned that when you were awake.
All right, best overall camera work.
So I couldn't include any of my favorites.
Okay.
And so this is a very honorable mention. And it's not even, there aren't even the coolest tricks here, but for the fact that it wasn't a dumb movie because it should have been really hokey, I'm actually going with The Birds.
Okay.
Because what he does is he takes really, maybe even bad special effects at the time, but it makes it a scary monster movie.
No, The Birds was made in 1963. 3, and it still had better special effects than Birdemic, Shock and Terror, made in 2000,
Oh.
whenever that came out.
But here's what's great about The Birds. I mean, obviously there's the scene with the playground and the birds are just watching. But the attack scenes, they're riveting. I mean, they're scary.
Well, and the way he did it
Yeah,
too,
somehow.
also just like doing the rear projection with,
Yes.
like, he said he was blowing like compressed air into the actress's hair, and they were throwing live birds
Yeah.
at them at times.
But what's
So-
great about this is this movie has no music in it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's still scary. Like he manages to make you feel this emotion with no music.
Yeah.
Just by a few birds. And there's like this whole scene where
the
like
birds sound horrific too.
everyone's in the
They do.
store and they see this guy filling up at a gas station. Birds start attacking him, and it cuts back to people watching and the horror. I'm going to go 11 hours on this one, Joel.
Oh, you're done.
The bird,
Okay.
the birds
Yes,
deserves
Joel.
its due, honestly.
Yes.
I chose Rope. And I chose Rope because it's one of those movies that's one of those, how did they do that? Because the whole premise of Rope is
Yeah.
these two guys kill a man and put him in the trunk, and then they have friends over. And one of the guys is like panicking because they're going to find out, and the other guy's really thrilled because they're going to find out.
Yeah.
And it's done in quote unquote one continuous shot. They really only could do 10 minutes like of
Because they
film.
do the fades to black.
And
I
then
thought
they-
I thought it was 3 shots.
Well, yeah, I mean,
No.
like, but it's that whole
10-minute
it's,
shots.
It's continuous shot thing, but yeah, you're right, Jacob. There's a couple cuts in there that are obvious, but there's others that aren't. But just
You could only do
overall.
10 minutes at the time.
Yeah, the film cam would only hold 10 minutes, and then they had to move it. But Rope is actually a very good film. I'm kind of sad it didn't make my top 5.
Yeah, I was just
Me
going to
too,
say
actually.
This means it's not in your top 5. Then I love. It's it's creepy. Gosh, that movie's creepy.
It's really creepy.
Yeah, I won't say more in case it shows up again later, but
That's a good one.
I want to. All right, the coolest shot.
Kent kind of took mine, but for different reasons. I chose the shot of the glass of milk in Suspicion.
Okay.
Because it opens up, you're looking down to this foyer from the top of the stairs, and the door opens up, and there's this long shadow that casts across the floor. And then you see Cary Grant coming up the stairs with the glowing milk, as we talked, and that just tracks him coming up. And that shot, once again, this is coolest shot in my honorable mentions. That was one of the few that really stuck out to me as like, that's impressive.
Mine is from Strangers on a Train. It is the murder in the eyeglasses.
Oh my gosh, that's creepy.
Yes. This is the second time we brought up Murder on a Train.
So he is also the best acting. Robert Walker, when he actually kills this woman, her glasses fall off, and you see the whole murder take place in this rear view of the glasses.
I seriously
what they
thought
had
about
to
that
do-
for like a month after I saw
Yes.
that. I was
Well, and
disturbed.
It's a very disturbing scene because it's like almost beautiful,
Yes.
but you're seeing something horrific.
Ugh.
And they actually filmed it by going to the studio and like filming on a concave mirror and then putting that film on top of the
That's
glasses.
brilliant.
Like the way he did it was so cool.
Oh man, so good. And even the intro of that movie, sorry, I'm going to talk really quick again. They only show the knees of the characters, and they show these two people living their lives sitting on the train, and all of a sudden they bump into each other, and that's where the movie begins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It really
But it
is.
didn't make your top 5.
I know it's weird.
There's a lot of competition.
There's.
All right, most suspenseful build-up.
I wonder if we're going to have the same answer.
This is of our, well, probably because this is our middles that we couldn't pick.
Yes.
Other Spencer movies. Did you pick a 1936 movie?
Yes, I did.
Sabotage?
Up top.
We're going to agree.
Yay.
Wow, it
It's
happened.
about time.
It
So
is.
Sabotage,
Gregory Peck's the best, am I right?
the plot
Yes.
summary of this is essentially there's spies among us and like these sleeper cells. And there's a part where they give the guy who's the stepfather to this. Oh, no, he's the uncle.
Yes.
So he gets his brother-in-law, and he gives him a package. It's a little boy. That's what you got to know. Is he gives him a package and it has a bomb in it, and the boy has to cross all the way across London to Piccadilly Circus to to deliver the package, this bomb, because they're going to commit this act of terrorism.
And it's supposed to go off at 1:45 p.m.
And you watch the clock tick away as the boy's getting there, and he gets
And he goes
distracted
to a
by a street
parade.
vendor. He gets stopped by a parade, and you're watching it the whole time.
Oh, man.
And it is so suspenseful. And he gets on the bus.
With a dog.
And there's a little puppy. He's playing with a puppy.
Two rules
and the
he's about to
package
break.
is in between them. And then I'm going to spoil
1:45
it.
hits.
It blows up.
Oh.
It's a bit much, honestly.
It is. And actually, people got so mad at Hitchcock, and he has said he regrets it because not because he killed a boy and a puppy, because he's probably fine with that in movies. But he said that he ruined the suspense. He says suspense is all about a release, and I didn't give you a release. He actually said, if I were to make that movie again, the bomb would never go off, or at least they'd get away.
Right.
And I agree, because I was so suspenseful. Like, I was so tense the whole time it was happening. And then when the bomb went off, I was like, wait, no, this isn't right. And it wasn't that release. You didn't quite get that.
Yeah, it's grim.
That is dark. Isn't there something like gained out of the dark side with that too? That it's like you don't get the release and that's some sort
A
of
little
benefit?
bit, but
Yeah.
but I think I agree with Hitchcock that it wasn't as like there's a satisfaction like when you get on a roller coaster that at the end you're like, oh, that was fun, and this didn't give you
Like,
that. It was
yeah,
like,
he
oh.
wanted dark endings, but to kill a kid and a puppy, that's a bit much.
It is.
and everyone else on the bus too. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a double decker.
This is the last of the middle awards.
Middle awards,
Are you ready?
yes.
Which title is most overrated?
To Catch a Thief, 1955. When a reformed jewel thief
I'm
is
fine with this
suspected of
answer.
Yeah,
returning
you
to
said
his
you
former
didn't care.
occupation, he must ferret out the real thief in order to prove his innocence. This is all about scenery. This movie is,
It is, actually.
beautiful for its time, but there's not much else. It's beautiful because it's Cary Grant and Grace Kelly as well.
It doesn't even matter what
But
happens.
the end is boring. I mean, there's just
movie's kinda
they
boring.
try to be witty the whole time, and it's about
a
cat burglars.
thief who's trying to clear his name.
Yes.
because they say it's him, but it's
And
not.
I was really stoked to watch this one, and then I was like, really? That's it? Did I watch the wrong movie?
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But oh my gosh, it's fun to watch those two.
I'm just not a fan of that one. So I'm okay with that, Kent. You're not going to be okay with mine. I said Vertigo.
What?
The heck?
1958 Vertigo is overrated.
Most overrated?
Overrated? Yeah, yeah.
Joel, I don't know about your Hitchcock opinions.
So, well, you wouldn't know, Jacob, because you haven't seen any Hitchcock movies. But
When's the last time you watched this movie?
it's been a couple years. But I've seen it multiple times.
I watched it 2 nights ago, and oh my word, the chills I had at the end of this movie.
But here's the thing, Kent. This movie has been named by multiple organizations as the greatest film ever made. Not the greatest Hitchcock film, the greatest film ever made. And I don't agree with that.
So you're being like one of these people that's like, Citizen Kane is not that good because
Citizen Kane
it was
is good, but I still don't think it's the greatest movie ever made.
Yeah, but like, who's to say any movie that it makes number one will get hated on by you? Because Vertigo is a very good movie.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not.
It feels like you are.
But it didn't make my top five.
I was
and
gonna say,
went,
it's not in your top five.
It's not my
then.
top five. And I've never really, the first time I saw Vertigo, I was like, oh, I didn't really like that. And the second time I watched, okay, I appreciate it. And I can appreciate it. And I actually enjoy it. But not as much as everyone says.
It's
and
fascinating.
I don't think it's Hitchcock's best work. And I definitely don't think it's the greatest film of all time. By the way...
You're right, Citizen Kane. And then Vertigo.
I think you're forgetting from Justin to Kelly. But so
Later
the
years.
summary of Vertigo is a former police detective juggles wrestling with his personal demons and becoming obsessed with a hauntingly beautiful woman. And I admit there are some great moments in this movie. And I admit it's a good movie. But greatest movie of all time? Overrated.
Well, I mean, how many people are really saying that?
That would be...
Sight and Sound, AFI.
according to the British Film Institute.
It's AFI's number one?
Who else? Sight and Sound. It just ranked behind British. It ranked behind Citizen Kane till just recently, and then now it's Vertigo. So a lot of people are bumping it up now as the best movie ever.
I'm sorry, this is one of his most personal, tightly written movies as well. And the ending, my gosh.
Oh, it's good.
And then it just
great.
ends just
Yes,
then.
on the
And
clock tower.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like...
We'll get there. We'll get there.
So there we go. That didn't make my top five. It got bumped off.
horrifying.
Ready to do top five?
Top five time.
All right, let's do this.
I'll go first. One of the movies I actually watched during this binge stuck out to me.
It's actually Marnie. You were just teasing before.
No, I hate that movie.
Plot twist.
I actually
That'd have been a
chose
good joke.
1953, I Confess.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so I Confess. I'll read the plot synopsis because we're back to that now. A priest who comes under suspicion for murder cannot clear his name without breaking the seal of a confessional. So basically, someone confesses to murder and he can't say anything about it because he's bound by his faith. And I was suddenly so enthralled because not only was this a murder mystery, this was a theological crisis as well. And you watch him try to not implicate himself, but also not give away that person that confessed to him. And then the person that confessed to him, you see it right at the beginning. It's this gardener that works there, Otto. And Otto is such a conniving jerk.
Yeah.
Like he just keeps needling the priest. Like, you can't say anything because God said you can't say anything. I am free.
It was a little heavy on that.
Well, no, I loved the villain. And then it goes to the point where he even goes to trial and he doesn't want to implicate himself, but he doesn't want to give it away. And a lot of people didn't like it. So they're like, well, he should just tell. And I'm like, but I like that they set up the rule that he can't tell.
You know what is definitely better than, though? Vertigo.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No.
I'm glad
No.
you agreed, Jacob.
No, although I will say Montgomery Clift in this movie, like I was like stand up. I'm like, why hasn't this guy been in more Hitchcock movies?
yeah, exactly.
Because he was a drunk.
Yeah.
and he
Oh,
was
is
kind
that
of
it?
He was a drunk method actor who was really hard to work with, apparently.
Oh,
But he was
so good.
He like had the perfect look, like almost near Gregory Peck, honestly.
Oh, no, he's much better than that block of wood.
No one's that good looking, kid.
My number 5 is Rope.
Oh, yeah.
I watched Rope when
Excellent
I was
choice.
in film class, and I was obsessed with long takes. And at the time, I'm like, this whole
And
movie
long
is
descriptions.
yeah, this.
He's just kneeling us.
just-
He's just kneeling us both this
I
whole
know.
episode.
But no, I am captivated by this movie. It's a kind of a play on screen.
It's very well done. And when I love
It
when
is.
Jimmy Stewart
Oh yeah,
realizes
just
what's
starts
going on.
discovering the clues. And here's the thing:
Oh
that
my
part.
gosh, yeah.
So good.
there's this dead body in the trunk, and they are like putting drinks. I think you mentioned this. They're putting drinks
They're
on the
setting a
trunk.
table on top of the
Because it's
trunk.
all about like superiority, right?
yes,
Like
and
it's been a
this-
few years since I've seen it, but
This dead guy's friends are at the party. They invited these people.
They invited
and
the
they're-
parents,
they're-
right?
Yes, and they're talking about why he's not there.
Yeah, it's so diabolical, and just one of those
is.
movies that I really enjoy watching.
Yeah, when you see it unfold, you're like, oh, I just feel nervous. It gives you like this gut feeling the entire time.
it hurts.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yes.
that's one of the reasons I haven't rewatched it is because I know it hurts. Like just watching it, like you feel
Oh yeah,
you're like
absolutely.
beat up by the end.
All right, Kent, you number 4?
Number
That was a
4,
good choice.
Rear Window.
Excellent choice.
A wheelchair-bound photographer spies on his neighbors from his apartment window and becomes convinced one of them has committed murder. This one is actually it has a better remake, I would say, with Suspiria, starring Shia LaBeouf. Disturbia? That's the one.
Suspiria.
That's another movie coming out. Dario Argento.
No, and Simpsons, I think, did a parody
Yes.
of this. They've done a couple different TV shows have done parodies.
But this is like almost this great bottle episode
Yes, because it's all in one location. That studio was built. The entire apartment complex
And Grace Kelly.
is built
And Grace
in a
Kelly.
studio. Like they
Grace
had it all
Kelly.
working. Yeah, Grace Kelly's amazing. in
Raymond Burr.
There's some great
Yeah.
shots of Grace Kelly in this one as well.
Excuse
yeah.
me?
The great shots.
Okay.
Camera shots.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But no, this one, like,
Family friendly.
like even when Grace Kelly is in the other apartment and she is like like rifling through things, and Raymond Burr comes home.
Oh, man.
And then you see Jimmy Stewart like whispering,
Yeah.
like, no,
Yes.
don't do it.
That
please."
part gives me heart
'Cause
palpitations.
he doesn't want to be seen because he's stuck in his chair. And he just has to whisper, please don't die. And he has to call the cops really quietly. It's
It's intense.
so good.
That is such a good movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
What's your
very
number
well
4?
done. My number 4 is actually Strangers on a Train.
Okay.
Because the whole concept of these two guys meeting each other, I guess the reason this one scared me more is I could totally see this happening to me because I tend to humor
What?
people. I tend to humor people. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
Which is what the tennis pro does.
And
in this movie.
because the tennis pro is approached by this other guy who's like, hey, you hate your wife, I hate my dad. We're complete strangers, so if we kill them, no one's going to suspect us. And
he's like, haha, you.
yeah, whatever. Huh. He's not thinking he's serious. And then the guy takes him seriously and goes ahead and kills his wife. And I'm like, that could happen to me. I could be that. I'm never riding trains again. Not that I ride a lot of trains. But I feel like, and also because I agree, Kent, Robert Walker is charming and terrifying.
When they're
Yes.
during the tennis scene and everyone's looking from left to right and he's just staring.
My note here made my note here
about that
says
part.
this movie's so good it makes a tennis match interesting.
Right? Well done. Well done.
It's probably the best Hitchcock villain, honestly.
Yeah, and the ending with the carousel is a little cheesy, but it's also very intense because that's
Especially
a
when
real.
they speed up like the film and it's
Yeah.
going like a million miles
but that's
an
like
hour.
but it was a real carousel going above the worker's head. They actually hired a carousel worker to crawl under there, and Hitchcock said if he would have lifted his head a few inches, it would have gone from a suspense movie to a horror movie.
Oh, awesome.
Like he put that dude in danger.
You did.
My number 3 is Dial M for Murder.
Oh, good choice.
Wow.
We haven't brought that one up yet.
That's a pretty high rank.
I really like Dial M for Murder, and once again, maybe this is a theme for me. It's the villain,
Right.
Ray Milland. Is that his name? Yeah, Ray Milland, who's in this movie. He plays the best liar I've ever seen on film. The guy is so quick on his feet. Okay, so this movie, I should say. Tennis player again. A tennis player frames his unfaithful wife for her first-degree murder after she inadvertently hinders his plan to kill her. So he tries to kill his wife. It goes awry. Her murderer gets killed. And then he tries to frame her for the murder. And every time he's almost caught up in the lie, he just works his way out of it the whole time. And he's so smooth.
It is a good one.
And the whole time I'm watching this, and it's Grace Kelly, once again, who's just gorgeous. And she's so good in this movie because she's like hurt that her husband, she goes along with her husband. Then when she realizes what he's doing, she's so hurt and you just feel for her. But this is also, they did this one in 3D. It did not do well in 3D. So they put it back to 2D. But Dial M for Murder, man.
Like, for example, when she is getting attacked and getting strangled, she reaches her hand out.
It's very famous.
That was
It's in
meant
the movie
to, that was
poster.
meant to come out of the audience.
And a key going through a keyhole, like they were doing these little effects. But really, it didn't need all the effects because this is one of the greatest stories. It's complicated. Like, it's kind of hard to explain with all the intersecting storylines happening. But very well done.
I mean, it's easy to follow when you're watching. But,
Oh, yeah. During the moment, it's fine. But like as I was trying to think, how much can I explain? I'm like, keep it simple, Joel.
Yeah.
My number 3 is Hitchcock's best filmed film. This is the best camera work overall.
Best filmed film.
Best
Yes.
filmed. Best cinematography? Best
Overall. But yes,
camera
best
work.
cinematography for
Like,
sure.
even better than your number 1.
Yes, it's Vertigo. Vertigo is my number 3. There is so much care that goes into this, and it even has a weird animated nightmare that Jimmy
Yeah.
Stewart has.
Yeah.
And it's chilling because this is Jimmy Stewart's best acting in any Hitchcock movie because he's this
Yeah, that's true.
this
How much can
bumbling
we say
detective.
about this?
I actually don't want to spoil it too much.
Okay, because I was going to say it's a very interesting character arc.
It is,
Very
but then when he
Yeah.
gets obsessive, you hate him, but there are
Yeah.
reasons as well. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, you see it unfold, and when it finally unfolds, you're like,
Well, it's Jimmy Stewart. You love him, and then he becomes weird.
That's about right.
and also some of the coolest camera tricks, the dolly zoom, which has been overused in so many movies at this point,
Yes.
really displays a fear of heights.
Which the dolly zoom is when you're zooming in and panning out. It kind of gives that weird kind of elongation of the screen, and it's the vertigo effect.
And even in the first scene when that cop falls off the ledge and it's basically Jimmy Stewart's fault, you're like,
Yeah.
wow, this movie is not kidding around.
No,
they bring the tension immediately.
And I will say best filmed because like the way this is choreographed with he's having a meeting with the detective in the chair, like his superior officer, and it's this power play. Whenever one sits, one stands, and it's so clever.
It's very well shot.
Yes.
It's a good movie.
Number 2 is the most fun I've ever had watching a Hitchcock movie. It's North by Northwest.
Hey, see, that's a good one.
So this is basically...
Fun is the right word.
It is so much fun.
Well, it ends on the nose of Mount Rushmore,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
awesome.
It's just so ridiculous.
It's
but
like it's wrong place, wrong time. It's this really strange plot where the government tries to create this fake spy. One man is blamed for being this fake spy, and the bad guys don't know
So you're
any
saying
better.
a man is wrongfully accused,
Yes.
finds a woman who doesn't trust him, then she trusts him,
Yeah.
and they both try to
Exactly.
solve his case.
But it's old Cary Grant, who almost seems to not really care anymore, so he just does anything he can in this movie just to have fun. And the crop duster scene, which we haven't brought up, is so iconic.
It is. It's one of the most iconic scenes in film where he's standing in this big empty field waiting for someone to come up, and all of a sudden he hears a plane, and he realizes as it gets closer, it's
Yes.
coming for him.
And it's just fun. Like the cast of characters here, like his mother is very involved in the story and tries to help him solve this crime. The bad guys are all great. Martin Landau as one of the villains is phenomenal.
Yes.
This movie is almost near perfection for a spy movie for me.
It's very well done.
Yeah.
But not my number 2, because it didn't make my top 5. It
was that
close.
2, Kent?
Number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, my number 2 is actually Rear Window. We've already talked about it, but Grace Kelly, Jimmy Stewart, I named them as my best actor and best actress for a reason. Best leading man, best lead lady, because this movie, it preys on so many fears, and it does it so well. And like Ken said, in a confined space.
Yes.
And that moment when she's in the other guy's apartment and he comes home, every time I watch that, I start panicking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, get out of the house, get out of the house. Because I don't know if I told you guys this before, but like when we go ghost hunts, for example, don't really count. But when you go into an abandoned building, I'm not scared of ghosts. I'm scared of getting caught or stabbed by a homeless person.
Oh, sure.
So the fear of
Just
getting,
in life.
the fear of getting caught and getting in trouble is a big fear of mine. And so whenever I watch that movie, I'm just floored by it. And I love that scene when Grace Kelly manages to get the ring and she's signaling to him behind her back. Mm-hmm. And James Stewart is watching through the binoculars.
Yeah.
And then he pans over and Raymond Burr, the bad guy, just looks up and looks at him, directly at him.
He's
Every
caught.
time I get chills. I just got chills just now talking about it.
It's so good.
So
What's happened?
also, by the way, they made a 1998 remake with Christopher Reeve, who was actually paralyzed for Rear Window.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Don't know what to say about that.
But Kent, we're going to agree, and everyone's already going to know what we're talking about. So
It seems like a cop-out at this point.
it doesn't. It seems
But
like a
what
cop-out,
else can you do?
But at the same time, we haven't brought up this movie.
Have you
because
rewatched it?
I watch
for
this one
Yes.
fairly regularly.
Okay.
Like this one, I actually own and watch.
You
fairly
watch it
regularly.
regularly?
I actually watch this
really-
one
this might be a
maybe,
problem.
honestly, maybe every 3 years.
Jacob, you have to realize, to me, this is kind of a perfect movie. Like as I've watched it, each time I'm like, not a shot is wasted. Kent, should we say what it is?
Gus Van Sant's
No, it's you jerk.
shot-for-shot remake.
No.
No, I'm sorry. That is blasphemy. This
Yes.
movie is...
The Skin Game,
You would. You would.
which isn't as scandalous as it sounds. It's actually.
I was going to go Minx Man.
Yeah. Oh, Minx Man would have been a weird one too. That was a weird title.
It was.
No, we're talking about Alfred Hitchcock's
Psycho.
Psycho. There's a reason we're giving this the Blu-ray away of this.
Yeah. So this movie, 1960, this is the movie that I would say really catapulted. I mean, he had made decades worth of movies.
Now, if you haven't seen it, it's about a Phoenix secretary who embezzles $40,000 from her employer's client, goes on the run, checks into a remote motel run by a young man under the domination of his mother.
You could almost say this. Yeah, I like that synopsis, right? This is
good.
two totally different movies, which should be a train wreck.
But that's the best part about it. And okay, let's just spoil this movie.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because some people have not seen Psycho.
Because I think they should see it. And so if you haven't seen Psycho, just turn off the episode here or skip to the end. But we're going to spoil it because the whole point of the movie is that you're getting used to this character. Spoiler alert, Marion Crane the whole time. Like
played by
she's the one
Janet Leigh.
embezzling the money. And then about half hour into the movie, she gets killed.
No, it's 2/3 of the way through the movie.
No.
1/3.
It's
1/3,
30 minutes.
2/3. I remember it being like,
He
Like
says,
seriously,
No,
first,
30
it's
minutes?
first third. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's within 30 minutes. I can look it up. But I
But
remember,
like you feel for this character. There's a cop like kind of following her, and you're like, do I want her to get away? Like she just stole a ton of money.
well, it's shocking. It's like our protagonist is dead.
And the best part is,
Like, what do we
when
do?
the protagonist dies, the only other person you have to relate to is Norman Bates.
yes.
And
Which
Yes,
I will
which is
say is easy enough. His acting is so good in this movie.
It's
He is
incredible.
the best Hitchcock actor hands down.
okay, you want to know why it's so good? Is because when he's hiding the body, he's putting Marion's body in the trunk after Mother kills her in the shower.
Yes.
And as he's putting her in there, a car comes by, and you're worried that he's going to get caught.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I worrying about this guy?
Yeah.
But this is actually one of those movies where the studios wouldn't touch it. It's based on a book by Robert Bloch, and it's actually, the book is fairly more graphic, and studios did not want to touch it. So Hitchcock actually financed this film himself.
Did he really?
He said, no one's going to take it. He's like, fine, what if I finance it myself, and then you don't have to do you only have to do the distribution. And they said, okay, deal. And then he also didn't take any money up front. He only said he would take money on the back end. This was his most profitable film.
Easily. So this movie actually changed movies altogether. Like, it changed the way we view cinema, because before 1960, people would show up, let's say at 5:30 for a movie, and they'd get the second half of the movie, and then they would stay for the first half after when it replayed.
Yeah.
This was a movie they would not let you go in at any point unless it was the very beginning. It literally changed the landscape of movies.
And it was also a marketing ploy too.
Yes.
Because when he said,
They had warnings with this one, didn't they? Distribute warnings,
and he said we have guards that will not let people in, and this is very disturbing. And they had to kind of they basically just built it up as word
Very
of mouth,
clever,
because they weren't getting any money for marketing, and it worked. People were lined up out the door to try to see this movie. So. It's amazing. And okay, let's just talk about the shower scene.
Yes.
Which I just looked is about 47 minutes.
He's always wanted to talk about a shower scene.
No, but the shower scene, I feel like if this
It actually
movie,
has its own movie based off of the shower scene.
Oh, it's like Hitchcock.
No, there's like a documentary that came out 2 years ago called like 758, 52, but it's about the frames of the movie, and different directors are just breaking this one scene down.
Okay, so I have kind of stats here on the shower scene. There were 77
That's
different camera angles used during the shower scene. And the finished scene runs 3 minutes and includes 50 cuts.
Yeah, so it's 77.50.
Not cuts, but cuts of film. But here's the thing. You never actually see any blood on Marion's body. Mm-hmm. You never see nudity. And you never see the knife touch her body. You just see the knife moving down. You see it getting close to her, and that's it. And that's why it works so well, because the horror is happening in your mind.
But it really is,
it's horrific. And then you get
it is.
And then you get the psycho the shower music, the that everyone mocks.
So iconic.
Which Hitchcock didn't want music initially. And then he was like, no, I don't want any music in this scene. I just want it to be horrific. And then Bernard Herrmann brought in the score, and he went, that makes it better.
Inspired.
Oh, so well done. But I feel like if this movie were done today, they'd be using special effects to see the knife like cutting her up. Or in the book, she actually gets beheaded.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And so I think they would show that.
There's something to the black and white aspect of this movie, because he could have made it in color. Easily.
He made a couple color features by this point.
But this in black and white, especially during that shower scene, when you see the silhouette, basically the shadow of Mother there, it just works for the time. It is the perfectly framed movie in every way.
Yes, it's so well done. And I love and I hate that people say this is the grandfather of the slasher genre. Because it was. This kind of brought that up as kind of this,
Well, it is kind of based off Ed Gein as well, which, that's a lot of slashers were also based off of that as well.
But I just don't like when people... I like when people call it that, because they give it the respect it deserves, but I don't like when they call it, because it feels like it dumbs it down, because this isn't a slasher movie. This is a smart psychological thriller, and it's absolute suspense the entire time.
It's basically the first time a real master has taken on such a horrific genre.
And he did it. That's the thing, is he did it so well. Yeah. That's why I get bugged by slasher genre, because it's like, how can we creatively kill people?
Yeah.
Is this why you're bugged by later movies like Marnie? Because you wanted to see another psycho type of movie?
Maybe. I just feel like this one was... to me, this is Hitchcock's peak. This is when he peaked. He was building up to it. Like, I like his 50s movies were ramping up.
Yeah.
He peaked in 60, and then he kind of started trickling down after that. But it never quite gets as low as like...
Except because you like
Martin.
family plot.
I did, but even that's not as great as his other one. That was one I was very pleasantly surprised by. But this one just became, and like I said, this was very controversial for its time. And some people said that this kind of pushed the envelope and allowed people to do more after this, which, obviously I'm not too happy about.
Is this movie considered rated R?
It is, which frustrates me to know, because there was no rating system in 1960.
Right.
It came out as NR, which is not rated, or UR, I can't remember which one. But it didn't have a rating. And then when they kind of started retroactively adding ratings, they gave this one an R. And I'm like, at best, this is a PG-13.
Whereas there's a lot of 80s movies I've seen that are PG that should not be PG, but I appreciated it.
Yeah.
It's just the content, right? The psychological content. The other thing, too, I've had a lot of conversations with people. This has happened to me a handful of times where, have you seen Psycho? And they think it's Freddy Krueger. Or they think it's something.
Wow.
They think it's just this weird sort of like horror like teenager thing. And I'm like, no, this is art, but about something creepy.
So I got to show this one to my sister-in-law, who was
For the first time.
For the first time, she'd never heard of it.
She was 10,
and I think she was actually probably 17 by this
I
point.
was 10 when I saw this, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But I got to show it to her, and I got to watch her face when the shower scene happened, and then she's like, "But wait." Like she was so
But
confused.
who did that? What about
Yeah.
Norman?
That the protagonist was no longer there, and I was like, "Yes, this is my purpose in life to shock people with movies."
It's really too bad because Anthony Perkins was a great actor, and this movie typecast him for the rest of his career.
It did. Well, and did you see any of the sequels? Can't
I saw number 2, which is actually pretty good.
good.
Yeah.
but definitely not as the heights.
And
of
then
the
there's
original.
3 and 4, I think, which
Yeah,
are
there's
bad.
there's 4. And then did you watch Bates Motel?
Yeah, I've seen the whole thing.
What do you think of Bates Motel as in comparison to Psycho?
Oh, I mean, there's no comparison.
TV show? Is
Well,
that what you're talking
it's-
about?
Yeah, the TV show.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I'm
But
wondering, because I've seen like
It's
a handful
actually
of episodes.
It's all the first season.
It's a tier 2 show, actually. Freddie Highmore as Norman Bates is great, and
Vera Miles.
Vera Farmiga.
No, sorry, Vera
Yeah.
Miles is in the original
Vera
Psycho.
Farmiga as Mother is great.
But is the backstory necessary?
There's so much filler. I can't even describe it to you.
Okay.
Yes.
It's ridiculous amounts of filler.
So there we go. I don't think there's much more to say because we've gone very long.
I'm trying to think. I remember I saw an interview where Hitchcock, what's his name? Freddie?
Freddie Highmore from
No, not Freddie Highmore.
Anthony Perkins.
Anthony Perkins, thank
Oh.
you. Yeah, where he was interviewing him and he was asking about his relationship with his mother. And so he told Hitchcock about a really terrible relationship he had. And that was like the thing that pushed it over for Hitchcock. He's like, yeah, you're the guy I need.
Well, and also
Right.
in the book, Norman Bates is a middle-aged, overweight, and kind of more overtly unstable. But in the movie, they found this like boy next door who you
Yeah,
just
so
feel sorry
clever.
for because his mom is just so domineering of him. And then that ending, Kent.
Oh, man.
Oh, I love that ending so much.
With the smile.
Yes.
Oh,
It's
man.
so perfect.
It's so
It
well
actually
done.
took me years to actually see that because I saw it when I was younger, and then I was finally like maybe 16, and I saw that I was like, oh my gosh, did they just add that in?
Yeah.
like that's incredible.
So yeah,
And actually, double exposure happy. He does that a lot. That was one of the cool camera tricks
Yes.
he did in Wrong Man as well.
yeah.
Oh man, it works to great effect here.
It's so well done. And also, I didn't bring this up. I was going to bring it up. This was actually very controversial for its time because of the blood and all that and the murder, but also because it showed a flushing toilet, which up to that point had not been shown in film.
it's not good restroom etiquette.
Like they talk about how they didn't,
Flushing toilet.
they didn't even show toilets.
we can't
let
see
alone flushing
water
toilets.
spinning down a porcelain tube.
Well, and it was like pieces of paper in clear water. Like it's a very clean toilet. This isn't like train spotting. And they get to they got so freaked out, and Hitchcock has said that he actually put that scene in there to kind of get the focal point there, so that it would allow other things.
I mean, look, we could talk about this so much. Like the fact that the money, which was the focal point of the movie,
doesn't matter.
thrown away.
yeah.
MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, just the fact that the censors kept coming back to him, and they'd say, "You need to cut some stuff," and he'd take the film and just hold on to it, not do anything, give it back to him, and be like, "There," and they'd be like, "Thank you." He did that.
brilliant.
I think he did that 2 or 3 times, and they were just like, "Okay." But I don't know. Psycho. If you have not seen 1960 Psycho, go ahead and see it. In fact, I'd recommend any of the 10
Yes.
movies we recommended for best, or even any of the middle awards that you sounded interested in. Go
Yeah.
check them out
Well,
because
there's some repeats in there, so you've probably got, what, 7 or so?
Yeah.
yeah.
But
And
remember, go watch these.
legitimately, these are, I'd say, 70% good films.
Yes. I would, if I went to a party and someone's watching any Hitchcock movie, I would sit down to watch it, even if it was one of the really bad ones, just because I'd want to be like, oh, now I remember this one that didn't get lost in the shuffle with the other movies.
Well, even his first one, Pleasure Garden.
Yes.
It's about a young girl who comes to the city and then she kind of loses her way. And there's a whole murder scene, actually, and even a ghost.
Yeah.
And I was watching that going, okay, even back then, Hitchcock knew what he wanted
Yes.
to be. So,
But definitely, if you want to go really early, go with The Lodger.
yeah, that's probably the best early one. So there you go. That's our show. Thank you for starting Halloween season with our little bridgeway here with Alfred Hitchcock. If you want to find me, you can find me at 786Joel on Twitter, or you can find me performing with Quickwits. They perform every Saturday night at the Midville Performing Arts Center. For more details, go to QW Comedy or go to the Quickwits Facebook page.
If you want to find me on Twitter and Instagram, it's at Kenny3DD. If you want to read my movie reviews, it's ShowtimeShowdown.com.
I really hope you've enjoyed this educational episode of Baconsale, which is definitely what this is. And
It needed to be long because, look, we put so much time into this.
no, that's what I was just going to say. That's what I was going to say. These guys really deserve a hand because that was a lot of time. That was a lot of preparation just for the show. So enjoy. And if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at Jacob A. Rogers, and go find Baconsale on Twitter at Baconsale.
Okay, Joel, you're on outro. Joel?
Ken and Jacob expect me to do an outro, but I won't. I'll just sit here and be quiet, just in case they do suspect me. They're probably watching me. Well, let them. Let them see what kind of person I am. I'm not even going to swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know and they'll say, why Joel wouldn't even harm a fly.
As soon as I saw you like grab your face to like smush it, I knew what was going to happen. I can get closer and I can go all the way around, which I like. Nope.
Well, we peaked a long time ago.
That's awesome. What it's like having a Roni. What it's like having a Roni. That was fun. Where's my boiled ham? That passenger should not be allowed to drive a train.
During the Irish Civil War.
He ends up being a escort at a dance hall for old women.
So things turned out well. You got to protect people from the truth, Joel.
You do.
Have movies taught you nothing?
Daddy has a few tricks up his sleeve.
If we start going out of control, I'm going to start climbing all over you.
Can't you win that round?
There's no scores.
There's scores. I just made a score.
A block of wood, Gregory Peck strikes again. And he's a handsome block of wood. What's in the milk? Yeah, but you never know.
No, you do know.
You know.
didn't do it.
Hey, you know, but you never know. I'm sad about it too, okay?
Wow.
I'm going to spill my drink accidentally all over your computer.
You went from slashing his tires to just spilling drinks?
Yeah.
He's got a really
I got to
weird
start
revenge
somewhere.
scale.
I can't go outside yet. And then there's plenty to pull out. What? No.
I'm scared of getting caught or stabbed by a homeless person.
Okay, Jake, I'm going to start this.
All right.
Joel's going to go next, and you're going to go third. Okay?
All right.
Doe, a deer, a female deer.
Ray, a drop of golden sun.
I don't know it.
You do too.
No, I really don't. Like, I've heard that part
Have
before.
you no soul?
What's going on?
Me.
Do you know where it's from?
No.
A name. Oh, my gosh, our musical show is going to be a mess.
I mean, it sounds familiar.
I call
what is it?
myself
Far, a long way to run.
Yeah, this sounds...
so a needle pulling thread.
La, a note to follow. So
No, now you've lost me.
Tea, a drink of jam and bread that will bring us back to dough.
do.
It's very British, though, whatever it is.